Good evening. It's 6 p.m. It's August 12th. This is the regular City Council meeting for the City of Placerville. If you'll all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Zito, would you call roll, please?
Vice Mayor Borelli.
Here.
Mayor Hagan.
Here.
Councilmember Patton.
Here.
Councilmember Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Wilkins.
Here.
Thank you. Announcements to the public at this time. Mr. Rivas, I believe we had an announcement on our award we received. So.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It's my pleasure to talk about the award that was provided to the city from the Sacramento chapter of the American Public Works Association. The APWA 2014 Project of the Year Awards was held August 8th in Sacramento, and Councilmember Thomas was able to attend the event and receive the award on behalf of the city. So thank you very much, Councilmember Thomas, for doing that. The Ray Lawyer Drive Interchange, the westbound on-ramp project, was selected as Project of the Year in the Small Agency Division in the Transportation Interchange category. The $5 million project took approximately 13 months to complete. The APWA recognizes public works projects that demonstrates excellence in management, administration, design, construction, community relations, and the alliance among the managing agency and the consultant, engineer, and contractor who all work together to complete this project. The funding assistance was provided through Caltrans and the El Dorado County Transportation Commission. Project designer was Dock and Engineering. The contractor was Veerkamp Engineering. The construction manager was Valley Cooper and Associates. And then I would also like to recognize Nate Stong, our city engineer, for his engineering administration of the project. And that concludes my report.
Mr. Mayor, if I may add something?
Sure.
Okay. I just have to...
How was lunch? Oh.
Lunch was fabulous. I just have to second Mr. Rivas's comments. It was quite a privilege to represent the city, and this was a big deal. Once again, it's the American Public Works Association, and these were all the projects of the year, and we're right in here as a Western Placerville Interchange, the Ray Lawyer Drive extension. And Mr. Rivas, this is a plaque that I would like to... I received on behalf of the city that I will present to you to hang in City Hall. And there were about 250 people here from all over California. And the fact that a small little city was recognized for an interchange as being efficient and a good use of public funds to build connectivity to our town was quite impressive. And so I think we can all be very proud of our city, and I was proud to represent us and invited everyone there to come on up and drive on our award-winning off-ramp. So I'm sure we will have a flood of people
they're
soon.
all gonna come up
Absolutely. So I did extend that invitation on behalf of the city. So thanks for letting me go.
Great. You understand that's just out of town.
It is, but they have to get into town to get
I
out
know.
of town. So
Right.
that's a good thing.
All
I
right.
encourage them to shop and eat while they were here.
Shop first, have lunch, and then drive.
That's right.
All right. The other thing we have this coming weekend, Mr. Ewell, I believe you've got a little project down at one of your city parks.
Oh, most definitely. I'm privileged tonight to introduce Beverly DeSalvo, who is the chairperson for our Goldbug Park Development Committee, and she'd like to share with us an upcoming special event.
Thank you very much for letting me have a few minutes tonight to let you know that over the Labor Day weekend, the Hangtown's Goldbug Park Development Committee is going to be sponsoring a special event in cooperation with Recreation and Parks, where we're going to give special tours of the seldom seen Priest Mine. And that will be for both, all 3 days, the Saturday, Sunday, and Monday of the Labor Day weekend, August 30th through September the 1st. Now, the Priest Mine is really special because it's the earliest mine that we have in the park. We have been able to date it back until the early to mid 1850s. So it was here right at the height of the gold rush. And you might remember that in February we did a President's Day thing, and it turned into this really huge thing where everybody came from all over the place. But we have decided that we are publicizing this one in our community. So the community members who came that time and couldn't get in to see the priest mine will have a chance to do so. So I want you to know that this is really kind of special because we don't often open up this mine. When we have school tours, it's open for the guided tours. Anytime anybody takes a guided tour, they will see it, but otherwise we have only the audio tour of the gold bug mine. So this is a chance for people to come and really see this. I also want you to know that the city has given us permission to actually sell a ticket to get into the priest mine, and so for $4 a piece, people will be able to see it, and we're going to be able to use that money to actually do a couple of little projects that we've been wanting to do that include raising a one-stamp mill that we have out at the mine, getting a newly donated hydraulic monitor, which is like a big water cannon up onto some kind of setting. And there's a Pelton water wheel, and we're really hoping to be able eventually to get that stamp mill actually working so you can see, the pistons go up and down. So the money raised here will all go toward that, which is, I think, great. So please come out. That Labor Day weekend, the park will be open 10 to 4. Our first mine tour will be at 10:15. We're going to try 20-minute tours through the priest mine, so 3 per hour. The last tour will be at 3:30, and the last ticket will be sold at 3 o'clock each day. So you never know who you might meet when you come out to Goldbug Park. Come out, take a stroll down history with us, and keep your eye out for a few special people who might be out there that day. You're likely to see Black Bart, among others. Let's see, who else? John Studebaker, John Dench, one of the claimants of the Goldbug mine, and maybe even Hattie Craddock. So hope to see all you, and bring your friends from the community there. Thank you very much.
And as far as interest goes, I just want to let you know, I toured that about 15 to 20 years ago when they first opened it up, the 5-stamp mill. On that particular day, we had a function out there that the Kiwanis Club did, and we had a special tour that included both mines. And the priest mine is very special, very interesting if you have an interest in the gold rush era. It is a great opportunity to get out and see some of the local history. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, the priest mine is our most historic, and it has the oldest history. So if you haven't been out for a while and you even have seen the priest mine, it doesn't look any different, but you might hear new things about what we now know. So great.
I have a question.
Sure.
I was one of the members of the community who couldn't get in last time.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Are the tickets available in advance or?
They are not.
Okay.
But I will let you know that we've put on a lot more people, a lot more volunteers will be out there to help, more ticket sellers, more ticket takers, more mine tour givers, everything. So we really do think we'll be able to accommodate you this time around.
Thank you. It's
Thank
exciting.
you.
Thanks. All right, we have one other announcement. I know, Ms. Borelli, would you please make that other announcement?
Yes, I read this in the paper, and I thought it was something that we should recognize these folks. It's about Placerville's Tractor Supply Company store was recently recognized for winning the Paper Clover Regional Champion Award for being one of the top 5 stores to have the highest transaction percentage in its region during the 4-H TSC Spring 2014 Paper Clover promotion. The region included all TSC stores in Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, and California. Store employees at the Placerville store had over 20% of all transactions include a 4-H paper clover purchase and were presented with a certificate and rosette ribbon from 4-H on Saturday, July 12th to recognize this achievement. The campaign is nationwide in-store fundraiser that benefits 4-H programming in the communities where the TSC store is located. The spring campaign raised more than $780,000 that supports 4-H on the local, state, and national level. During the 12-day promotion, the Placerville store raised $1,642 for 4-H in El Dorado County. In addition to this campaign, the Placerville has hosted quarterly 4-H awareness events and contributed to youth in the agriculture fundraiser.
Nice.
Thank you for bringing that up. All right, at this time, we're on to item 4, closed session. We had none, but I'll have the attorney.
Mayor Hagan, thank you. We did not have a closed session tonight.
Okay, so nothing to report. Any member of the council wish to change the adoption of the agenda? Anything needs to be moved around or changed?
Move for adoption?
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Adopt the agenda as is. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes. We have a proclamation, just so you know that I'm not going to read all of it, but the proclamation is for community volunteers for the Main Street Matters project, to repaint the storefronts for Upper Main. And basically, it's a proclamation that I will be presenting to the Placerville Downtown Association and the volunteers for the success of the Benjamin Moore Main Street Matters project. So we're going to be thanking the PDA for sure. They spent a lot of time and effort on that project. Glenn and Grace Webb from the Paint Spot, who put in a lot of time. Matt Boyer helped out with that. Bill Robinson from the PDA did all the photography and did quite a few photography before and after the building facades. Again, there's a few other people that were mentioned in here, but we'll be presenting this, what is it, September 24th at their PDA, regular PDA meeting. So if anybody wants to see more of it, it will be posted on our website, right? Oh, okay. It'll be on the PDA website after it gets presented to them.
I have to say, those buildings sure look great.
They do look good, and I want to thank everybody that has participated. At this point, we're on item 7, public comment, brief non-agenda items. Basically, I reserve the right to limit your time, speaker's time, to 3 minutes. The mayor would recognize you. When you come to the microphone, please state your name for the record. You are not to make any slanders or personal attacks, individuals' personal privacy, or invade anybody's individual personal privacy. At this point, do we have any written communication that didn't make it earlier? We got something handed
Mayor
to
and
us.
Council, just those items that were handed to you before the meeting, which are in relation to item 10.1 and will be used
Okay.
as part of that agenda item tonight.
Great. All right, so then under oral communication, anybody with making a comment, non-agenda items? So you can please come up to the microphone. State your name for the record, please.
Good evening, Mayor. Ooh, now I got to back up. Mayor Hagan and members of the council, Kathy Lishman. I have 2 items. First item, along the Public Works line. I would really like to compliment the city for the project on Campbellic Road. The repaving of that street, which is used by so many cars, was so needed, and it just came out really nicely. And it's a pleasure to drive on it now. The second item has to do with community pride and our monument garden that we're trying to raise money for next to the DA's office. And I want to go over it briefly. It's a garden, and we are planning to build a stone raised flower bed, but we're not planning to plant any flowers because of the drought. But it also includes benches and pavers, no grass, and the crowning glory of the project is the monument on Main Street to house the Vietnam Memorial plaques that were once located along Main Street. And if anybody doesn't know, some of them are in the window back there. It's a very special project, and it's not easy to raise money I brought some brochures to put in the back of the room tonight, but I didn't know there would be a full audience, so I would have brought more. But if anybody wants more information about it or wants to make a donation, they can come to Town Hall and do that. And I only have about 7 brochures here. And I don't know if it's still on the homepage of the city's website, but it was at one time. So it's a very important project for our community. It will be the entrance to town for tourists and locals to enjoy. And once we complete that project, then we'll be able to do the project across the highway where the Goldbug Park sign is that needs, well, we'll have to wait about the drought for that, but both of those projects are really significant to the beauty of the city, to the grace and charm of Placerville, which is what community pride is all about. Thank you.
Thank you. And so if you can't take a brochure and mail a check in, you can certainly leave a check here. And you can come back here during business hours, and they have plenty of brochures and the capability of receiving checks at the counter back at the Recreation Department.
And
Mr.
Steve,
Yule's
if
department.
someone wants to leave a check tonight, they can make it out to Community Pride Committee and give it to Steve Yule. Is there anything you'd like to add about it?
No, that'd be fine. Just make sure it's made out to Community Pride and not Steve Yule.
Right. Steve just the collector of the funds, not and the spender of the funds. All right. So any additional comments, Mr. Smith?
Good evening, Kirk Smith, City of Placerville. At your last meeting, there was some discussion by a great many residents suggesting that there was disparity in the treatment given to the Hangman's Tree buildings, and some of you took umbrage at that, believing that wasn't correct. But I think the approach that I would like to suggest is that we all have a common concern for taking care of the city, preserving our historic monuments. We can learn from it, and maybe come up with some solutions that would help. Factually, you look at the fact that during the entire period of the recent configuration of the Historic Advisory Committee, that body provided persons to speak before you regarding one building only. It was the Herrick Building, none other. Likewise, during the entire time that I know of this council meeting, there's only one instance when it ever held hearings about the status about a building project, and that was this building. But and based in part because of some critics from local merchants. But during that same period, I just brought you some photographs to show that this is what another building looked like by one of the critics. And this is the Empire Theater marquee that's historic going back to the 1930s. In great disrepair. Likewise, you can see not only the brackets on the top of the building, which is shown more closely in this exhibit, upside down, shows that there's bending of the brackets. The marquee is at an angle. I'm not suggesting it's going to fall down, but there's been no studies about that building. The water, once the rain season starts, keeps dripping long after the rain stops because it accumulates in the top and goes right through the light sockets. So that was in tremendous disrepair for many years, long before the other body was involved in having the Hangman's Tree buildings. So that would, on its surface, look like there's a disparity. One of the things we can learn from this is that when the building inspectors came by on one afternoon, they followed the normal pattern, which is you take the complaints or reports in the order in which they're presented. But you might want to consider a process for fast track like the federal government does when it comes to approving cancer drugs to get them on the market right away. So when the staff comes by, it's of course, beg your pardon?
No, I bumped the mic. Sorry.
It comes when it's comes by in the regular course of order, and so that would be like on a Friday afternoon, and that means your crew is off work for 3 days. Secondly, there was the discovery when you go down and start to do excavation that one of the footings for that building was shared by the building next door. So when the owners of that building wanted to reinforce it, they bring in the inspectors who understandably say, sorry, it's not in the building plans. Well, of course it wasn't. How would you know it's there? Because this building was constructed at a time when there was no planning authority.
I guess I'm trying to follow you. Are you complaining about the fact that we don't inspect other buildings? Are you complaining about the fact that the building inspector told them they needed to do something when they found out they had an issue?
The building inspectors did exactly what they are supposed to do.
Okay, thank you.
My suggestion to you is stop and realize that with an historic building, you're not going to have them have people going down with blueprints at the time this building was constructed. So how would anybody have known that it had a common footing that needed reinforcement? So if you have an owner for an historic building coming back to the Planning Commission, that's going to be months of delays and actually is impossible. So my suggestion is that you consider fast-track procedures, just as the federal government does when it comes to approving cancer report. Likewise, when one of the two hearings, which you had several people appearing from and giving their views from the Historic Advisory Committee, one remark made was, why have an advisory committee if we're not going to pay any attention or follow their recommendations? Well, the answer is because all of you have the authority, not them, for the ultimate decision, have a fiduciary responsibility to look at the facts, and knew or should have known that what they were telling you wasn't sound. For example, number one, they were telling you that the building could not get the entranceway proposed by the owners because there were no photographs that supported the entranceway design. And you never asked what photographs. It was constructed more than half a century before George Eastman invented the Kodak Brownie and put film on acetate. It was the days of the Matthew Brady's when people came around and covered wagons with their camera equipment in dark rooms. There are no photographs. But when you're inside the building, as I was, you can see once the walls are torn away where the framing was and the weathers was. So there needs to be an examination about how to approach historic preservation in the city with some uniform patterns.
Okay.
But on its
Thank you.
surface, beg your pardon?
Thank you.
And I'll in conclusion, give you a report, probably by the end of the month, with some details. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Mayor and Council, I just want to mention, I'll just make brief comment on the particular circumstance that Mr. Smith brought up regarding the footing between the buildings. I believe that issue was resolved, which was a serious issue. I believe our staff got on and resolved that in less than a week and kept them moving on their project. And I think that was extremely reasonable in the time frame that we got on top of that. I personally got involved with that to make sure that they could move forward and get done what they needed to. So the fact of the matter is we do, for a circumstance like that, and I would dare to say more so in this case, move to get things done on that building.
Thank you. Ms. Vierkamp.
Evelyn Vierkamp, Placerville. I'm speaking in respect of a media release which is found at the city's website, which I only became aware of today. I don't know when it went up. I do know that the file date or the file stamp on it is Friday at 2:35 p.m. So sometime after Friday, 2:35 p.m., it went online. I have no idea how widely it's been distributed, if it's actually gone to the media or if the media are left to find it. The release is in respect of the nomination period being extended for the office of member of City Council, and it reads that the nomination period for filing nomination periods for the office of City Council, my English has failed me, for filing nomination papers for the office of City Council has been extended to Wednesday, August 13th, 2014 at 5 p.m., which is tomorrow. The extension is a result of the non-filing of Council Member Carl Hagan. In respect of that, I wish to submit, or I am submitting, a California Public Records Act request dated today. And it's in respect of the media release, which I've just read a portion of. And what I'm asking is for the city to please provide documentation as to your authority to extend the filing deadline when the city, in fact, had a full slate of candidates.
We understand what you're talking about. If you'll just,
I'm finished. Thank you very much.
If you'll wait a second, we'll give you an answer. But well, do you want to listen to a result or an answer or not?
I can certainly respond to the question
Sure.
now. The media release was put up at the end of the filing period, which was August 8th. The filing period for City Council is set by state law, began July 14th, ended August 8th at the close of business, which on Friday is 3 p.m. At 3 p.m., when we had one incumbent who had not filed, that automatically extends, again by state law, the filing period for 5 calendar days. The media release was put up on our website at 3:05 p.m. About 2:55 p.m., it was faxed to the Mountain Democrat, to both Wendy Schultz, who I understand is on vacation, and her the reporter who's taking over in her absence, Dawn Hodson. It was also put up on Facebook. We are actually not obligated to post it anywhere. It is automatically extended for 5 calendar days at the end of the filing period if one incumbent does not run. So we more than satisfied the requirement of notifying the public. If the Mountain Democrats' deadline is past 3 p.m. on Friday, we had no way of getting it up any earlier. We could not file it until the end of the filing period. I hope that answers the question.
I think it's very clear to me that you followed state law. So if Ms. Veerkamp needs more than that, we can reference the code sections, send her an email with those code sections in it if you'd like. If you still need that or you don't believe us, that's what the state law is. All right, any additional comments, questions on items not on the agenda? Seeing nobody approaching the dais, I'll close the open mic period. This time we're going to move down to item 8, consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered routine and enacted by one motion and by roll call vote unless any member of the council wishes to remove any item for discussion. The reading of the full text of the resolutions will be waived unless council member requests. Any council member wishing to remove items 8.1, any of the items 8.1 through 8.7?
I would. I'd like to remove, pull 8.6, please.
All right, that'll go. I'll look at that, see if it goes to either item 14 or I can move item 14 up to just prior to item 9. Any other items to be removed? Questions? Okay.
Move for the adoption other than 8.6.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. At this point, I'll open up public comments. Any comments on any items 8.1 through 8.7 except for 8.6? Seeing nobody approaching the dais, we'll call for a question. It's been moved and seconded.
Vice Mayor Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember Hagan?
Aye.
Councilmember Patton?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkins?
Aye.
And because we're right on there, let's go ahead and have Ms. Borelli explain what question she has about item 8.6.
Okay, it is a question. On the report about this, it said under, and I'm on 8.6.
8.6, sorry.
And it's under cost. It says the estimated cost for the interim contract is approximately $8,500 depending on the actual number of hours needed. If we are unsuccessful in our recruitment, the ongoing monthly cost is estimated at $1,500 per month. Budget impact. This item is not currently budgeted. However, there should be a savings from the vacant position that will cover some of the cost. If necessary, staff will recommend a budget adjustment at mid-year. So my question is, it says that the vacancy will cover some of the cost of hiring this, doing an interim contract, and I'm wondering the cost difference and whether it would just pay us to contract this position.
That's an analysis that we can go through. We are currently, in fact, we did interviews for that recruitment today, so we're close. That is not an analysis we've done. My guess is, looking at the cost of the consultant, that no, it would not pay to do the consultant, but we have not done that full analysis. The consultant this time that we're showing the $1,500 on a monthly basis is not for a full-time person. That's severely cut back. It's only, what, about 10 hours a week, I think, Pierre?
We were looking at 10 hours a week.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's the comparison with
Okay.
a full 40 hours per week. And we do, if we were to do this on a consultant basis on a long term, we would more than likely require more hours than that. In the interim, we can get by with just those few hours.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So,
With that, I recommend we,
removal?
that we vote on it. We would
Okay.
vote for it,
So
recommend.
got a
Second.
motion and a second.
Does the public-
And at this point, I'll open up for public comment on item 8.6. Anybody approaching the dais? Okay, seeing nobody approaching the dais, I will call for the question.
Vice Mayor Borelli.
Aye.
Mayor Hagan.
Aye.
Councilmember Patton.
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkins.
Aye.
Okay, we are on item 9.1, first reading of an ordinance regarding the Reserve Officer Program. Chief Heller?
Mayor, members of the council, the Placerville Police Department's in the process of reinstituting its police reserve program. While authorized the reserve police force pursuant to state law and the city code, the program is not currently in functional existence. On June 24th of this year, City Council adopted the 14-15 operating budget authorizing an alternative service level request on behalf of the police department to reestablish the reserve officer program, which requires an updated amendment to Title VI, Chapter 13 of the Placerville City Code. The creation of a modern reserve officer program will augment current basic police services and assist with short-term options for dealing with staffing challenges. Likewise, a functioning reserve program will greatly assist recruiting efforts when full-time sworn officer positions become available. The reserve officer program should provide a steady pool of local candidates to choose from to hire as full-time regular officers. Reserves would work flexible schedules and shifts in a part-time capacity and could readily be deployed in case of emergency staffing issues. While having police powers only while on duty, reserve officers would serve at the direction of a full-time officer or supervisor while deployed in field operations. Reserve officers would be appointed in accordance with the Commission on California Peace Officer Standards and Trainings pursuant to Regulation 1007 and remain current in training and accreditation requirements, assuring the citizens of Placerville the same level of professional police service they would expect from a regular full-time officer of the department. In staff's opinion, in accordance with the best practices and in an effort to attract and retain a quality reserve force, Title VI, Chapter 13 of the Placerville City Code should be amended by striking the word volunteer from paragraph 1 and the words reserve officers shall, as a minimum requirement to participate in the reserve program, donate 16 hours of service without compensation each month from paragraph 2. It's also recommended the words shall and maximum shall be added to paragraph 2. And the word he should be updated to coordinator in paragraph 5. All recommended removal of wording is in the attached ordinance. It's highlighted by strike through, and the additions are also highlighted by underlining. These are the only changes recommended to amend the existing ordinance at this time. The purpose of amending Chapter 13 of Title VI of the City Code is updated to reflect the City Council's prior budgetary approval of the program. In the past, the program was a hybrid of volunteer and paid assignments, which is not consistent with industry standards and current labor laws. Going forward, an update to the city code is necessary to bring the reserve program into compliance with labor laws and best practices. The cost savings component of having a full functioning reserve force would be substantial in the long term. Reserve officers work in a part-time capacity at a discounted rate compared to full-time. They work without benefits and usually for shorter blocks of time. Their motivation can vary from those looking to gain law enforcement experience in an effort to gain a full-time position in the department to retirees with special skills that could also assist the department with special functions and projects. A draft policy with program guidelines is attached to the staff report for informational purposes and subject to future changes within the department. The proposed amended ordinance follows the draft policy. There is a prior authorized cost for this. It was itemized in the report, $37,229, which was authorized for fiscal year 14-15, and that would provide an estimate between 4 to 6 officers, depending on the hours they served. We put that at about a projected 16 a month, which theoretically gives us the ability to deploy two reserve officers in 4-hour blocks in various assignments, including the bike trails, downtown, special events, etc. The budget impact on June 24th of this year, the City Council approved the fiscal year 14-15 budget authority for the reestablishment of the Reserve Officer Program within the Police Department through the alternative service level request process. Staff's recommendation is to introduce the ordinance amending Chapter 13 of Title 6 of the Placerville City Code relating to reserve police officers and waive the first reading.
Thank you. Any questions of the chief?
I do have a few
Okay,
brief questions.
start on that.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Chief Heller. Couple questions. This is similar to the apprentice program that the fire district employs, is it? Sorry.
With all due
They don't
respect,
have
So
fire
you're new to
hoses.
this community too.
I
Okay.
believe it's probably similar.
Similar, all right.
It involves 2 levels of reserves. There's a level 2 and a level 1. A level 2 would be need more supervision, training, et cetera. After a certain amount of hours, a level 2 would progress to a level 1, and then the hope would be from a level 1 to some point, as we had vacancies, promote them up to a full-time
promote,
officer.
okay.
Yes.
And it's also, seems like an excellent way to give opportunity to the young men and women in our community that are right out of the police academy that are, looking to be fully gainfully employed and give them the experience necessary in our community, which is terrific. I did have a question about the level 1 and level 2. Under essential duties that were illustrative, it says answers calls for protection of life and private property and the enforcement of city and state laws. Would these reserve officers be alone or supervised in this arena, especially the calls for protection of life and private property? Would they be alone or supervised?
Well, all officers in field operations are supervised.
Okay.
They have a watch commander or a sergeant. A level 2 officer would not work independent. A level 2 officer would work constantly under the direction of another full-time officer. A level 1 officer, per post regulations, once they establish proficiency within the department, could work independently. However, they would still answer to a field supervisor, if
Okay.
that makes sense.
Yes. All right. Thanks for that clarification.
I do. I have a couple questions also. I was wondering, the $37,000 that's in the budget, does that cover their uniforms, or do we purchase their uniforms?
We did include a uniform purchase in that
Okay.
amount, correct, yeah.
Okay. And then one other thing I had, this is a training period, and it prepares them, and you're hopeful that it's for Placerville. Do we have any kind of a guarantee after they go through this training period? Do they sign any kind of a contract with us that we don't lose them?
Well, hopefully it's a mutually beneficial relationship. We can't force them to sign a contract, nor can we force our full-time officers to commit beyond the academy. The hope is that by giving them a fair opportunity, that they'll be loyal to the organization and take advantage of the opportunities. The way this is set up is it should move progressively up. So you should have a level 2, which would be at a lesser amount hourly rate. And then as that level 2 gains experience and hours, the hope would be that 1 or more would compete to achieve a level 1. When they achieve a level 1, they would go up to a higher rate, which is capped by the ordinance at the bottom step of a full-time officer. It can't go any higher than that. So then the next incentive would be to become a full-time officer out of that pool of candidates. So there is hopefully a built-in system, farm system, if you will, to bring up some local talent.
And I understand that, but we don't always have openings. So that was my thought, is like, okay, we've spent all this money and training and stuff, and if we don't have an opening, then obviously they're going to go elsewhere. That's kind of where my mind was going.
And to answer that, if we have a pool officers that we are paying at a discount rate to provide us basically full police services, we're actually benefiting from that relationship as well. So they're
So
gaining
that's where
experience, we're
that's our
gaining a cost savings, and if they choose to go somewhere else, they can pretty much take our philosophy on the road, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay. At this time, I'll open up to the public. If anybody in the public has any questions on items 9.1, please approach the dais, podium. Yes, Sue.
Sue Rodman, City of Placerville resident. I have a couple of questions. Is there current interest in these reserve officer positions? I mean, do we have people who are actually interested in doing this? It seems like we're saving the city budget with part-time and no benefits. Are we really being fair to these apprentice officers? Because especially if they're an apprentice and just coming out of the academy, they're not retired, they don't have a lot of other income. So my question is, you know, can they afford to become our reserve officers or not? Is there, you know, is there an interest there? Is there a cadre of people who are interested in doing this?
And you have an additional, you said 2 questions?
That's my 2 questions.
Okay. Okay. Any additional comments, questions from the audience? Seeing nobody approaching the podium, I'm going to cut off the public comments. And then, Chief, would you answer that question, please?
Well, being as we're bringing the program back, I can't say that we have candidates lined up. We have had interest. We have, these candidates also have to go through a thorough background process. So we had one candidate that was expressing an interest who since, I don't know if he couldn't wait or he got a better offer and he went to another agency. They also, it helped that he had a huge amount of technical computer skills to bring to the table. He actually makes quite a bit more in the private sector than he would make with us. He just wanted to give back to the community and be compensated a little bit for his time. He also, unfortunately for us, he had a pilot license and another agency promised to put him in a helicopter. So he's going to do that part-time. So there are folks out there that
So we're not buying a helicopter to get competitive.
The other thing is there's a lot of folks graduating the academy just looking to get their feet wet and they can put that time in. We also have veterans returning back that are looking to start a career. Perhaps they got a clean background, they got a little bit of experience, and we can get their foot in the door. And so I think the interest is there because of the sort of the steps to it. You can come in at one step, move up and move up. I don't believe we're going to have a problem filling these positions and having these folks move up.
Okay, thank you. So at this time I'll accept a recommendation from this.
I move that we introduce an ordinance amending Chapter 13 of Title 6 of the Placerville Municipal Code relating to reserve police officers and waive the first reading of said ordinance.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Seconded by.
11, I'm sorry. Title.
Did you get it wrong?
Sorry, no.
Okay, so do you call?
Vice Mayor Borelli?
Aye.
Mayor Hagan?
Aye.
Councilmember Patton?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkins?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Now we are on item 10.1. Item 10.1 is the public hearing considering the appeal by Tim Page of the Planning Commission's denial of a conditional use permit 2014-03 to allow a 10-bed residential treatment, drug and alcohol abuse facility for adult men at 2986 Coloma Street. Mr. Rivas, please.
Actually, before we continue, Mr. Mayor, I do apologize that I've been advised by our city attorney that I do need to recuse myself on this item, as that I have property, an interest in property less than 300 feet away from from the project area.
Okay. So. Thank you. We'll wait till she leaves the town.
The town?
Can't be any place where she can hear us. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So, Mr. Rivas, would you
thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is consideration of an appeal of the denial of a conditional use permit by the Planning Commission for a 10-bed residential treatment facility. And I'll start with a little bit of history. On April 15th, 2014, an application was made with the city by property owners Tim and Ellen Page for a conditional use permit for West Slope Recovery to operate a 10-bed residential drug and alcohol abuse treatment facility within an existing two-story single-family residence located at 2986 Coloma Street. The facility is to be staffed 24 hours per day and would serve men only. The proposed use was considered by the Planning Commission at their June 3rd, 2014 meeting. Although staff had originally made a recommendation for the approval of the conditional use permit, at the conclusion of the hearing, the Planning Commission conceptually denied the application and directed that staff prepare the appropriate findings based upon the testimony and information that was presented during that public hearing. At its June 1st, 2014 meeting, the Planning Commission considered the findings for denial of the conditional use permit prepared by staff and then formally denied the application based on the findings made. And the Planning Commission July 1st, 2014 minutes are attached in your staff report. An appeal of the Planning Commission's denial of the conditional use permit application was made to the City Council, was filed by Mr. Tim Page, who is also the applicant for the application, on July 11th of 2014, which is within the 10-day calendar appeal period. The applicant's appeal is based on Mr. Page's opinion that the findings that were made by the Planning Commission were flawed and based on flawed and undocumented material provided by the public at that hearing. In summary, the Planning Commission found that the addition of the use to the neighborhood would contribute to an area that is already impacted by a concentration of existing transitional housing, supportive housing, drug and alcohol counseling support services, and other facilities which cumulatively change the residential character of the neighborhood. In addition, the neighborhood was found to be currently impacted, having a high rate of crime and drug activity in the area, as reported by a police investigation of crime in the area. It is the opinion of staff that should the council wish to uphold the decision of the Planning Commission, that the information is sufficient to conclude that the area has an overconcentration of non-single-family residential uses, and that these non-residential single-family uses are changing the residential character of the area. With respect to the concentration of criminal activity in the area, the applicant provided with the application a November 2012 report that was prepared by Hendrickson Development that reviewed literature and discussing crime patterns in regards to substance abuse treatment programs, and that copy of that is also attached. The conclusion of the report was that the literature did not support the belief that substance abuse treatment centers are associated with higher crime rates or neighborhood risk, but rather socioeconomic conditions is a major factor affecting crime rates. So therefore, now it is staff's opinion that as a single-family residential uses are displaced in this area, the socioeconomic stability of the area may decrease as long-term permanent residences are displaced by a more transient population. So with that, the council has three options at your disposal. One, the council could uphold the decision of the Planning Commission, denying the conditional use permit based on the findings that have been made by the Planning Commission. Two, the council could approve the conditional use permit based on the findings and subject to the conditions of approval as recommended by staff in the report to the Planning Commission dated June 3rd, 2014, that is within your staff report. And the third option would be you do have the option to approve the conditional use permit with modifications. You could change or modify the project, add or delete conditions accordingly. Staff therefore concurs with the decision of the Planning Commission to deny the application and recommends that the council take the action under option one, and that would be to uphold the decision of the Planning Commission denying the conditional use permit 2014-03 based on the findings that have been made by the Planning Commission. And that's the conclusion of my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have at this time.
Okay, so at this time I'll open it to the council for any questions of staff, or with instructions I'll move to Mr. Page for his presentation first. Just a second, Mr. Page. Any questions of staff? Any questions of staff?
Not right now.
Okay.
Oh, if I may make one additional comment, Mr. Mayor, and
Sure.
I apologize. I just wanted to add that in addition to the comments that are made part of the record in your staff report, we have received additional comments from 5 other persons, and that's Ricky Lorda, Pat Nash, Glenda Smith, Glenn Brown, and William Carter, and the council members have been provided copies of those comments. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, sorry, Mr. Page. Like to.
Good evening, Good evening, Mayor Hagan and City Council members. As most everyone in the room knows, I'm here tonight to make an appeal to you folks. If you didn't attend or watch the Planning Commission meeting on June 3rd, you missed some very important statements that were made regarding the makeup of the neighborhood where we happen to own a piece of property. The people that made those statements were our neighbors. The statements went something like this, and I'm paraphrasing. The drug and alcohol problem in our neighborhood is out of control. There are people selling drugs and making unwanted contact with children walking down the street. My car has been broken into. There is screaming at night, and I'm afraid. There was a rape on the walk bridge. I found drug pipes and beer cans in my yard. I have to lock my gate so the drunks won't come in my yard. And finally, some guy drunk and high came into my home and asked me where the bathroom was. If I was a prospective buyer or renter in this neighborhood, this information would help me make the decision not to move there. When the chief of police made his presentation, he had some very sobering statistics. He reiterated the statements that the neighbors made. Why would anyone open a business or move to this neighborhood, knowing the facts as they were presented and then printed on the front page of the Mountain Democrat? We have been in the process of opening a substance use disorder treatment facility since June of last year. Our paperwork has been submitted to the state for our license and certification. Even as a 6-bed facility, we're required to adhere to rigorous standards and procedures, unlike a facility without a permit. We are planning on opening this facility on a property in one of the most crime-ridden parts of Placerville, according to all reports. Why would anyone do that? The reason is that property is the only one that's available to us. My wife and I purchased that property 12 years ago. It was a commercial property for the entire 40 years of its life until we converted it to a residential property last year. After I spent 30 days in a facility similar to the one we're opening, I saw the need for housing for sober alcoholics. When the building department red tagged our commercial building because we had tenants living there, we applied for and received a permit to convert the building to a residential men's home. I say residential men's home because our plans were designed for this very purpose, and the city of Placerville gave their approval. Our facility has standalone showers and a dining hall for 15. When the offer to turn our transitional home into a residential treatment facility came up, we crunched the numbers. We felt that we could barely survive on 6 beds, so why not ask the city for an additional 4 beds? Having a state requirement for 24-hour staff, when we are full, we would only have 9 clients. If you have any business experience, you will understand that we probably will only be full a small percentage of the time. To give you an idea, the budget to house 6 men for 30 days, it's $20,000. Of course, we have to make the lead counselor's salary $12 an hour and rely on volunteer staff to make this happen. This is something we are moving forward with. Drug and alcohol abuse is rampant not only in our community but worldwide. How many of our lives have been touched by it? We only hear about the famous people dying of the complication of this disease. A statement was made at the Planning Commission meeting that there was only a 35% success rate with treatment, so why bother? Would we tell our brother, father, or son that if we were referring to cancer? Chemo is only 35% successful, so why bother? Getting grants and outside funding for women and children in distress is fairly easy. The Boys and Girls Club, the Center, and New Morning are successful nonprofits. Try and get someone to donate to a drug rehab for men. Think about that. Unless you've suffered with or because of a man suffering from addiction, it just doesn't happen. We are dealing with the dregs. People that don't understand the disease of addiction think that you can just quit. It's ruining your life, just quit. If we can help just 35% of the people we treat to put their lives back together, we will have helped the mothers, brothers, sisters, but most importantly, the children in these men's lives. The Planning Commission, city staff, neighbors, and chief of police all stated that we're going to bring the neighborhood down. Opening a treatment facility on the site we have can only make our neighborhood better. If the city of Placerville won't approve the additional beds at this facility, can anyone in this room tell me where they would? My opinion, there isn't a property in the city that would fit the criteria. It would have been nice to know the city was against our project from the beginning. We could have saved over $1,100 and countless hours of work. But the city wasn't against our project. City staff recommended approval to the Planning Commission. It was only after the neighbors' testimony and the police reports that they changed their mind. If we can't open in the most crime-ridden area, where then? Thank you.
All right, so at this time, I'll open it up to the public. Please state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Allison Lopridge, and I run Glenmorey Bed and Breakfast, and I'm possibly one of the most affected by this new facility. And because of my proximity, I'm directly up High Street, right behind it, and you have no other way of getting in or out of my property other than going alongside this facility and with the Ridgeview Manor on the other side. It is not only my home, it's my business. And the place where I raise my family and my children, and their freedom of movement through the city is also possibly affected by this. We also collect TOT tax to benefit the city through the business, and that could be affected by a decrease in business for us. I am also one of the people who sent a letter included in your packet. You might notice that. And it's no surprise to anyone that I am against having a drug rehab in any neighborhood of any size. You know, there is a number of reasons for that, and some of them were, you know, in Mr. Page's words at the Planning Commission meeting. He plans to import people with drug problems from other counties. He was asked, did he think he'd be able to fill beds from our county? And he said, well, if I can, I'll get them from Placer or I'll get them from other counties. I don't think we need to bring any more problems in here than we already have. He stated that the people that would be coming to him would be coming with only the clothes on their back. So the situation that they're coming from are quite dire when they will arrive on my doorstep. He will also be bringing parolees, people who have negotiated not going to prison in exchange for completing rehab, and meth and heroin addicts also. And we know that they have a very, very hard time kicking that addiction. And then according to the recent California Treatment Report by the California Department of Alcohol and Drug Programs, which I downloaded from their website, and I have it here if anyone wants to see it, but I do have it, several pages, it's maybe 8 or 9 pages. Only 35% of people who start a program like this will complete it. And incorrectly stated by Mr. Page, we're not bringing up that statistic to tell you, why bother? Only 35% are going to benefit. And I kind of want to say that to the people that are going to speak to you tonight, I don't want to minimize that they have kicked something that's very hard to defeat. I mean, they are one of the minority, one of the 35% that managed to kick their addiction. But my point on the 35% is that 65% of the people brought here to this facility will not complete it. 65% will abort their treatment before it's done. They will not have a car, and they may abort it in the middle of the night and decide that they're just going to leave. They're going to use, and they're going to use now, and they're going to walk out in the middle of the night while their 24-hour support is sleeping, and I'll get to that in a minute. I followed my childhood best friend to Placerville about 14 years ago, and she chose to live out on acreage, but when I saw the historic district, I knew that that was the place for me. That is where I always wanted to live. I fell in love with it. I love the historic district. It's not a slum to me, in a way.
Allison?
Yes.
I'm going to keep you to 3 minutes, please, and everybody. So
Okay.
we have your complete letter. I know all of us have read it, I believe, so.
Okay,
If we have questions, we will, but if you want to make one more closing comment.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my closing statement is just this. I've thought many times over the last 12 years of coming before you and asking for help for us in the historic district. We need your help. It is decaying before our eyes. The state of California has had a problem, and they are asking communities to solve it. They didn't have the rooms in their prisons. They didn't build the rehab facilities they needed with Prop 36. We are the solution, and they want to put this in our communities. And the requirements that they are placing on these facilities that are properly licensed include you are allowed to have volunteer unpaid interns who are sleeping as your 24-hour supervision. And I just don't feel it's adequate. And what I would ask, my first choice to you would be to say, can you possibly not have any facility here? And I understand because of the state of California that you can't.
No, we cannot.
Right.
Any residential area can have up to 6.
I know that. I researched that. And that's why I'm saying my second choice would be, please consider, if you're going to, possibly approving for 7 beds and placing some reasonable community protecting restrictions on this facility. Okay? Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Maggie Smith, and I live in the Historic District. On September the 1st, 2001, I became a co-owner with my daughter and her husband of the Henry Morey House, set in a lovely glen of trees. I thought a wonderful place for my grandchildren to grow up. Like many others, I have invested my life savings and earnings in this community. I see Placerville as a city under the trees. Each house in Placerville is unique. The people are friendly. The sky is truly blue, not smoggy gray. And we can actually see the stars at night. Not everybody lives in that kind of situation. Most new residents, incomers if you will, most new residents to Placerville value this rural way of life. Tonight, I am here to represent my grandchildren and their future. I speak on behalf of young people who are raising their children here. I also think of teenagers and students who will make their way to school along Coloma Street, and they'll have to pass a rehab and a dilapidated rooming house. At the June 3rd meeting, I heard Mr. Page assure the planning commissioners that he could fill the house with 10 beds, and he would go to Sacramento, Yolo, and other counties to find candidates and bring them here to our neighborhood. Any person who opposes this proposal is called an NIMBY. Now, I didn't know what an NIMBY was, but 2 days ago I learned that it's an acronym for Not in My Backyard. I don't want this in any family's backyard. And I wonder, what is the acronym for somebody who creates this problem in other people's backyard? Mr. Page was correct when he told a neighbor, I can open a 6-bed rehab next door to you, whether you like it or not. It is not ethical to do this to other people, but it is legal because our legislative representatives in Sacramento have failed us. They took the easy way out, and they've created a bigger problem for the majority of law-abiding citizens. Please do not do this to us.
Thank you.
Tonight, you are only seeing the tip of the iceberg. And I appreciate you taking the time and serving our community like this. But if you could have the time to hear each person's personal experiences, you would know that our neighborhood will not be improved by another rehab center with an absentee owner. We are plagued by break-ins and thefts of anything that's not nailed down. Have you ever driven down a street and you see the houses are clean and the yards are tidy, and then you notice that there are wrought iron bars on all the windows? Do we want to let this happen in our community? Do we need to have the police department telephone number on speed dial? That's not a way to live in Placerville. Now, I know addiction is a fierce enemy, and it makes people do crazy and desperate things. I want to say that this particular location is clearly not suitable for people struggling to overcome their problem. It offers crowded living space inside, and outside, a black asphalt parking lot and the roar of the freeway below. In addition, there is close proximity to a hub of drug activity in this city. Now, I'm addicted to sugar, but I don't keep sugar in my house because then it removes the temptation. It's not good to be right next to what you're craving for.
Ms. Smith?
Mm-hmm.
Your time
Sorry.
is up, so.
A transient population, a high failure rate. How does this improve our community? Lastly, I would say please consider our children with their whole lives ahead of them. Tonight, you are under pressure. We are too. But your decision will affect me for the rest of my life, and it will affect the living situations of everybody in this room. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
James Matthews, Mayor, you guys.
Hey, pull the mic up so we can hear you.
There we go. 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, CPS came to my house, arrested me for child neglect and drinking. So I got arrested for it. I was one of those guys that showed up at rehab in a suit, and this community in this county offered me rehab. I work 2 jobs now, both my daughters. I got custody back of both of them. If I didn't have that rehab and didn't have the help of this community, I wouldn't be standing here today. The drug addiction is bad. It's the kids we're trying to help here. Look at Sandridge Fire. This community came together like gangbusters, helping the people. Strangers helping strangers. We have somebody that's trying to help people get sober in life. We need the help. There's the A's and A's. Nobody wanted Red Hawk. Red Hawk went through. It didn't. The crime went down after a while. I go eat there all the time with my family. So I hear the few people that are up here that don't want this rehab. We have Addiction Daily, Robin Williams. I'm a single father, 2 kids. Missed Out Fire was my favorite movie with that guy. It's rampant. It's up and down these streets. They need help. So if we just keep shoving it down the corner or in another county, they don't get the help they deserve. Heaven forbid one of their family members have an addiction. The people standing behind me would go running to help them. That's all I have to say. I hope this goes through, and I want to be a part of it. And I think this community does come together when it's to help one another.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Good evening, council members. Dominic Gozan, City of Placerville resident. I just wanted to say, for me, my experience was 13 years ago, getting help with substance abuse. And I'm glad nobody ever told me the percentages before I went in. You know, because that would have probably changed my my outlook on life. And when I got help, I was 20 years old. I'm 33. In 4 months, I'll be graduating to be a nurse. I hope that someday to be working at Marshall or at UC Davis with pediatric oncology. I have 2 children, 2 boys, 7 and 4. They've never seen their parents loaded. I can understand that the fear of what our disease does to families, communities, and even ourselves. And the best thing that I can offer you is a story that I've heard about a little boy standing on a beach. with all the starfish on the beach, and they're dying, and he's walking along and he's throwing them back into the ocean. And there's thousands of them, thousands. And a man walked up and he said, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm trying to save a starfish." And the guy said, "There are thousands of starfish out here. You cannot possibly save all of them." And the little boy looked at him, and he picked one up, and he threw it back in the ocean, and he said, "It made a difference to that one." I can tell you right now that if I didn't get help, I would be worse. I'd be a drag on this community. And I can tell you the damage that one of me can cause is pretty serious. I grew up in Newark, California. I'm from outside of this community, and I would have no other place to call my home than Placerville today. I've been here for 11 years. I go to school down in the Bay Area, and every Friday I can't wait to get out of there to come back to my home. I love this place, and I want to tell you guys that whether or not we acknowledge it or we help it or we treat it, it will affect this community 100%. So I hope that disparaging statistics don't cause you to look at what could happen, because the possibility, when you play the game in life of saying, what if those 65% of those people are what we think they are, we ignore the possibility of what those 35% of the people might actually be in our lives. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Fred Unterleitner, 3395 Escaton Drive. Our son had a serious problem and was treated at a rehabilitation facility 30 years ago. He's now a professor of chemistry at UC Davis. If we hadn't had the money to allow him to go to that facility, I don't know what he'd be doing now. He was a serious heroin addict. And they were able to cure him. So I have strong feelings about the need for this kind of facility. My question would be, is there any evidence that any of the 6 people who have been residents at this facility have been a police problem? We're talking about the general neighborhood, and people are claiming that it's the people in this facility that are causing the deterioration of the neighborhood. I would like to have some evidence that any of the people that have been treated at this facility have actually been a problem in the neighborhood, rather than just making general claims that there might be a problem.
Thank you.
I'm Glenda Smith. I'm a Placerville property owner. I've seen the miracles. I'm retired now, but I still keep up my certification as a substance abuse counselor. And I've been retired for 10 years. And the truth is, when people leave the substance abuse facility that they're in, they don't hang around. They're out of here. If they're from other areas, they're back to their old neighborhoods, because that's where they know how to get their drugs. So they don't hang around. The people that do stay in the facility, the miracles that I got to see, are amazing. You've heard a couple of them. These people were not my clients. But the miracles are still there. I heard the gentleman say that, are any of the people that have been in the facility the problem? And I'm hearing that probably not. I'm hearing that the people that have been the problems are people in the community. I happened to grab a paper that had a report from the sheriffs, and there were out there, these people are not in treatment. From July 1 to July 30, there were 58 incidents. Of those 58 incidents, and this just came out of a paper, 58 incidents, 13 were directly related to drugs. 7 were directly related to alcohol, and another 7 were DUIs. Now, DUIs can be either drugs or alcohol, but that added up to 27 incidences out of 58. Now, those people were not in recovery. Those people are out there wandering around our community and harassing our police and our families. So I did some math, and if my math is right, that means that 48% of the problems in the community are about substance abuse. I don't like it in my backyard either. And I want somebody that's doing something about it. And that's our police department, that's our sheriffs, and that's our substance abuse people. And I will also almost guarantee you, I don't like guarantees, that almost everybody that I've ever met that got substance abuse help, and of the 35% that make it, and I want to change that statistic just a tad, but of the 35% make it, they're out there helping other people make it. Very few of them just leave and forget about it and say, I'm okay now. Most of them are out there pushing on the guys that are still using and the gals that are still using. Now, my experience, and I know some people have gone to drug and alcohol, the drug and alcohol programs department. My experience is that it's right. It's a third, a third, and a third. My experience is a third get it the first time, and they're okay. A third go out there and experiment it again, and it takes them a while, and it takes them 1 or 2 times to get clean and sober. And another third of our kids die under the bridge, and that's the ones I really hate. But that's the truth based on my 10, 12 years of experience. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Good evening. Jackie No, City of Placerville. For me, this issue is about 10 people moving next door to me. That's apartment living. That's not neighborhood. Why I bought a house to live in a neighborhood living. You know, if you were going to move forward with this plan, I would like to know how many of these you're going to approve in the city of Placerville. I want to know if you're going to approve them in my neighborhood. You know, this is going to change the neighborhoods a great deal, to put mini apartments all over town. I heard the question asked, so where? We live in a county with 5-acre parcels all over the place. That's a much better place to put 10 people. I'd like to see a review to see how many of these facilities are in the city of Placerville and how many in our surrounding communities. We cannot solve all of the county's problems in the city of Placerville. Other communities need to do their fair share, and there are better places for 10 people beds than in the city limits. Thank you.
Hi. I'm Ellen Page, and I have co-owned this building since 2002 with my husband, Tim. I'm not involved as my husband with West Slope Recovery, but I am an owner of the building, and as such, I'm very interested and concerned about our neighborhood and our property values. Since purchasing the property 12 years ago, we have remodeled the inside of the building twice. We've painted the outside twice. We've put up fencing twice. And I have to say that we put up the fencing, the last one, with the outside on the good neighbor part of it on the outside, so that it's a nice passageway for Allison and her clients coming back from town or wherever they go. We've done everything that we can to be a good neighbor. I think I'm actually unofficial dog poop picker-upper of High Street. I was very happy to hear from the reports presented to the City Council that facilities like ours tend to be associated with a decrease in crime and maybe even a slight increase in property values in our immediate neighborhood. I'd like to talk a little bit about what we are and what we aren't. First of all, I'd like to talk about what we aren't. Our clients are not a bunch of drunks and druggies. They must be clean and sober to enter our program and to stay there. They are sober men with the disease of alcoholism. We're like the maintenance program of Weight Watchers, where the weight has been lost and now the hard work of learning to keep it off begins. We use the AA principles as a basis for this learning. There's no detox that takes place in our facilities. Again, our clients are already clean and sober for a period of at least 72 hours. We don't allow violent offenders or child abusers in our treatment program. Our clients could be doctors, lawyers, your relatives, your neighbors. Although our facility will be staffed 24 hours a day, they do not need to act as security guards. If a client wants to leave our treatment, they're not only allowed to, but encouraged to do so. Otherwise, their presence detracts from the treatment of others, which is based on a supportive and cooperative environment. They're not discharged in the middle of the night, however, or without some place to go. What we are. We're concerned property owners that have improved, repaired, and maintained their property. We're good neighbors with a positive influence on crime and property values in our area. The police chief and his lieutenant submitted a report listing the transitional adult care facilities in the city of Placerville. And being in the real estate and mortgage background, I took that out and did some calculations on it, and if you subtract the El Dorado County Mental Health, we have a total of 54 beds in the city of Placerville at full capacity for transitional housing. With a population of just over 10,000, that 54 beds is 1/2 of 1%. I also did a little more research and found out that 10% of the population feels that they have had a drug or an alcohol substance abuse problem in the past, and 7% were currently or active alcoholics. With 7 to 17% of the population, and we have housing available for 1/2 of 1%, the police chief didn't provide any research on the average numbers of facilities in a bed typical for our size, but that seems woefully inadequate. It appears that we're the only residence and substance treatment facility available for the city of Placerville. And as far as I can see, we're the only game in town. I guess no one else wants to go through all of this. It seems it's just too difficult to structure a facility so that it is financially viable and then try to get through all of this red tape. This is our only facility. We feel it's the best use of a property that's located between Highway 50 and Ridgeview Manor. We're only asking for a few more beds to make this financially viable. Even a nonprofit can't operate in the red for too long. Please approve our request.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Waltz, and I'm a parent whose child goes to El Dorado High School. My son walks down Coloma Street to get up, passes this Ridgeview Manor, and the facility that is currently operating the 6-bed for the alcoholic men that need treatment. The biggest part and the fear that we have isn't the fact that we need 4 more beds in this facility. It's that this area that we live in has enough facilities as it is. We have Progress House, we have Tree House, we have Ridgeview Manor. There is a lot of drugs and alcohol that go on in that little cul-de-sac corner by the bridge that you walk over to get to the other side of the highway. Kids that live on the other side of Highway 50 have to walk across the footbridge to get to the high school, who do have to pass this. So, I mean, there's so much concentration of negativity, drugs, alcohol, what have you. Do we need more right there in that facility? We have enough as it is. It's not a locked facility. The liar's bench, the light from the liar's bench, the neon light, it lights and flashes. So when the people who are in this home look out their window, they got the liar's bench light flashing at them. They can easily, it's not locked, they can walk across the footbridge and go get their alcohol if deemed they want to not continue the program. I'm not against not helping people. I've needed help myself in the past, and I succeeded. But I was in a place that was far away from residential people. I was far away enough that if I wanted to leave, I had a long way to go, and I wasn't around children, and I wasn't around neighbors that care about their neighborhoods and what have you. So this is all about we're a good community, we're good neighbors, and we just don't need another facility. We have children walking by every single day. And it's just not effective for these kids to continue to see this negative exposure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jeff Little of Coloma Street, and I think none of the neighbors here tonight are trying to say that having a drug rehabilitation facility is bad or they don't want anything like that. It is very important for the community and important for a lot of people's families and individuals. The thing that we're trying to bring up, though, is if you are going to put a facility in a location, you really need to look at that location and plan it smartly. And we're just not seeing that it's being planned correctly for our area. A lot of situations like this, they really should not be looking at, well, we just have this building and we're going to use it. They should be looking at a city plan and finding the most effective place to place it to where they can be effective, help the community, and the neighborhood is happy as well. Our communities, our little neighborhood's very upset because we already have so many issues and problems going on there. And we know once you put a problem there, it's impossible to get rid of it. Since I've lived here, we can't get rid of Ridgeview Manor. I mean, they seem to overstep every bounds, law, anything they can do, and we still can't get rid of them. We're concerned because we put one more thing there, and nobody's gotten in trouble there because it's not running. So, but if you do, and somebody does get in trouble, or we have problems, unless it turns into a major problem, you're stuck with this problem again. And so that's what our community's concerned about, is we don't need one more high maintenance, high risk situation in our particular neighborhood. We just had the National Night Out that's always trying to promote neighborhoods taking control and getting your neighborhood together, and when you have something that you don't like, bring it to your city council. And I think this neighborhood's done it quite a few times, come together and said, we don't need this anymore. So we're looking for your help. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Hi, my name is Jamie. You have to excuse me, I get very nervous talking in front of people.
Me too.
I just have to say that I was one of those people that needed help with drugs and alcohol. And I was not the person that was out there robbing homes. I was not the person that was out there getting into trouble or doing all the things to make your community a mess. I was at home being a mom and still being addicted to the stuff that was ruining my life and my children's lives. And I went through a treatment facility 11 years ago. My son is sitting right here in the stands, and he doesn't remember any part of his mom using or drinking or anything. And if it wasn't for a place like that, where would my kids be? My kids would be out there robbing houses and stuff because I wasn't there for them while they were growing up. And we only have one inpatient men's facility here in this town. And there's dads out there that need to be a part of their children's lives. And if they're not a part of their children's lives, we have kids out there just acting fools. We need parents out there taking care of their kids and being there for them, not high. So I really hope that you decide to take this and let them do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My turn. Hi there, Mayor and council members. My name is Brian Giatris. I am a resident of Placerville and of a sober community with 31 years of continuous sobriety. I am also a board member of West Slope Recovery. I have been excited to be part of West Slope Recovery since its inception. Our vision to bring high-quality behavior modification counseling and spiritual guidance to men suffering from addiction and alcohol abuse on the West Slope. Since applying for a conditional use permit and notification of our neighbors, however, I have been saddened and confused by the visceral response we have received from them. I realized last night that the real issue is fear. As a natural human response, many times fear manifests itself as anger. In that context, I see the anger from our neighbors. It is understandable. There have been a number of legitimate concerns voiced regarding our application. I would like to use my brief time at the podium to try and address some of these concerns. First of all, some are worried that West Slope Recovery will be a magnet for practicing substance abusers. It is silly to believe that a residential treatment center would attract practicing addicts and alcoholics to the area. The opposite is truth. Practicing substance abusers will not want to be anywhere near West Slope Recovery. God forbid they would have to face their own issues. This is also the fact for clients who, after treatment, may decide to continue in their old ways. The last place they will want to hang around is our treatment center. Our clients will not be allowed off the property unless accompanied by a staff member, and we will provide transportation for doctor's appointments, court appearances, etc. There will also be times when we will take clients to outside support groups. Another concern being disseminated is that we will house violent and sexual offenders. As a father of 5 girls, I understand this completely. The facts are we have the right and are mandated by the state to refuse treatments to these reprobates. As part of our charter, we will refuse them admission to the facility. Also, if a client is here as part of the AB 109, sometimes known as treatment or jail, and they try to leave or are asked to exit by the staff, our policy is to notify the proper authorities immediately. Whether that is their parole officer or the courts, they will not be allowed to just wander off. These scenarios rarely happen because of all these clients know the consequences, and whether they are there for the right reasons or not, they don't want to go back to jail. Some believe crime will be increased. I point to the fact that since opening Coloma House over a year ago, Coloma House is a transition house that is now at 2986 Coloma Street. We have had a total of 2 police calls to our address. One of those calls was initiated by us. It was a call regarding a possible break-in attempt. The other was a simple tenant-landlord dispute. This is in spite of the fact that there is currently no 24-hour supervision there. These are men that want to get sober and stay sober. The fact is, most people didn't even know we were there because we're just normal members of the community living life once we're sober. It seems that all of the area woes are being attributed to our proposed treatment facility, which hasn't even opened yet. People cite Ridgeview Manor, juvenile facility at 790 High Street, the problems at the walking bridge, escapes from county mental health, and other issues are being cited as reasons for denial of our conditional use permit. We truly believe we have been and will continue to be a detriment to crime in the immediate vicinity. For no other reason than we will be an additional sober, responsible eyes in the area. I personally ran off a fellow nicknamed the Whistler. He would appear mid-mornings at the walking bridge, and as he would meander towards Coloma, he would start a loud whistle, and what that meant was the drugs were here, the stash is in, and people from all around would come and buy his wares. After noticing this, and actually I had to be told, I was kind of ignorant or naive, what's this guy doing? And finally I was told by actually one of our transition house members, he's selling drugs. And so I watched him for a few more days, and finally what I did is when he came and whistled, I walked out on our balcony and I yelled, "The stash is in!" And I made it as loud as possible so he knew exactly that I knew what was going on. After a couple of times, we had just a brief encounter. He feigned that he was going to come up the stairs and show me what, but he never did. This happened 2 times. He's never been seen since. We ran him off. I say all that to ensure our neighbors that we will do everything in our power to confront these types of individuals, whether by notifying the police or by confronting them directly. We will let them know that they are not welcomed in our community. We would be inclined to join any type of neighborhood watch program in the area. In conclusion, I want to convey to the council and to our neighbors that West Slope Recovery will always strive to be a good neighbor. We are just 3 men who have found a way out of a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body and want to give back to our community by helping to stem the tide of rampant substance abuse. I realize that these words will not convince those who oppose us to change their minds. Fear is a powerful emotion, but I hope that this objective council will grant us the conditional use permit we are seeking. Thank you, and God bless. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bill Beverly. I live at 954 Spring Street. I've lived there since 1954. In 1960, I moved to Bedford Avenue, and until 1972, I moved back into the same address around 1988. And I've been living there off and on since. Well, I think I've been living there pretty much full time since 2001. My experience with this neighborhood is, anybody knows that address, knows that I have had active drug dealing in next door and across the street. My neighbor struggles with addiction. Also, I think he struggles with hoarding. But he's been by that neighborhood. I didn't take any notes. I wished I would have. I'm going to try to address some of what I've heard today. I had not planned on coming up here, but felt kind of compelled to. I don't think this issue of NIMBY is going to go away. It's going to continue, and if not in this address, it's going to be in somebody else's backyard, and we're going to be up against the same issue, and that's unfortunate because I don't think it's a not in my backyard issue. I think it's a in my front room issue, and I think that's part of the resistance. I think that most everybody has been affected in one way or another by someone with the disease of addiction. Tim mentioned the statistics. My experience working for 13 years in a residential program was that, and I'll be kind of conservative here, was 95% of the clients that I had in treatment stayed sober while in treatment. 95%, and that's a pretty conservative estimate. So what I'm saying is, while they're there, they remain sober pretty much. The struggles come afterwards. What else I want to say? Yeah, I think the Whistler was living across the street from me, because I would know it because he would make that walk, and we had neighbors that we'd call and say he's on his way, and he was down there on the overpass. So it's throughout the neighborhood. For the past 8 years, I've worked for the Department of Veterans Affairs as a substance abuse counselor. I think what compelled me to come up here was, in the past 6 weeks, I've lost 3 young men to this disease. 3 veterans who fought for their country. And part of the reason I believe that they suffer from addiction, and that's just the nature of addiction. It's a deadly, progressive, chronic disease. And in part, I know it's because we don't have facilities like these available to our veterans. We contract with the community. The VA does not have the resources to provide treatment for our young men and women who are coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan suffering from this disease based on a lot of different factors, mostly survivability of the war. And so I think if not here, where? If not here, where? 14 years ago, I went to license a facility in Alta, California. If anybody knows where Alta is, this was in a very rural area at the end of a road, a very rural road, 2-3 neighbors. That community was in an uproar. Not in my backyard. So if we can't have it there, then where can we have it? So I don't know that I'm advocating for this facility in this location, but what I'm saying is that when we come back here in a year, 2, 5, looking for a facility like this, because there are not enough in the community, in the state, probably in the nation, you know, where are we going to have it? I can't have it out. I couldn't get a facility licensed in a, you know, at the end of at a dead-end road. So I guess that's my point is, you know, when can we address this, and when can we start taking care of those people who we love and who have a disease? I don't think we deny a facility to someone who had cancer or heart disease or diabetes if this was a place that could help them. And
Thank
I
you,
think
Bill.
we're still dealing with the stigma of addiction. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I won't take up too much of your time. I'll only make a few statements. My name is Bradley Pope. 5 years ago, I went through a facility not unlike the one Mr. Page is proposing. It not only changed my life, but it changed the life of my family. I think the notion of transporting men and women to treatment elsewhere is absurd. And I believe that if a facility like the one Mr. Page here has been working very hard to put together isn't put in place, the very people who are rallying against it will be begging this man to solve a problem that is growing exponentially. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Robert Foster, and I'm a recovered alcoholic, and I live on Coloma Street. Statements made that a residential program at 2986 Coloma Street will change the face of the neighborhood are, at best, speculative and unrealistic, serving only to perpetuate disinformation and disagreement. The original building was built as a commercial building. This location is surrounded by numerous rentals. Across High Street is Ridgeview Manor, former hospital, and is now affordable rooms for rent. Main Street, in near vicinity, provides numerous commercial properties with rooms for rent. Excluding Main Street and the immediate vicinity, 48% of the buildings are rentals. The property behind 2986 Columbus Street is a rental. Both properties across High Street are rentals, and up Conrad, there are rentals including a 27-unit apartment. This neighborhood, no matter how you look at it, is residentially zoned, uses income for 48% of the properties. Adding 4 beds to this community is not unreasonable. It is my firm belief that adding 4 additional beds will have no negative impact on the neighborhood. I'd also like to add I have a sobriety date of November the 4th of 1988, and that with 25 years sober, I lived at Ridgeview Manor. And I can honestly guarantee you that the current manager of Ridgeview Manor is turning that place around. Because since I've been there, I've seen him toss numerous people out. And the reason he tossed them out is because he's cleaning that place up. And the only reason I say that is to try to, you know, solve some concerns of our other neighbors. So I offer that up. But what I can tell you is that of the 35% who don't make it, I made it 100%, and it's on account of a treatment facility just like the one that we're dealing with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Crystal Flood. I'm a homeowner on Coloma Street. As I look around here tonight, I see most all of my neighbors that own homes, actually all of them that I know, are all here to stand up for what we believe, that we don't want any more of this on our block. I have a 10-year-old daughter. I'm a single mother, and it's really hard for me to let her outside, especially in her backyard, overlooking this facility. I know they have put up a fence. It doesn't block it. I don't allow my daughter to ride her bike or walk down the street. None of that. None of the things that I grew up in Placerville being able to do. Now, I know that treatment facilities are needed here, just not in the city limit this close to our homes. There's plenty of areas in this county to put these facilities. I don't see that adding 4 more beds is going to do anything but put money in his pocket. That's just 4 more beds. They can be anywhere else in this county. It's just more on our neighborhood, on our block. I don't want it. Thank you.
Jeff Kidder, I lived right next door to this facility on Coloma Street. I wasn't going to get up here, but I was asked for the information. Does someone panhandling, buying a 5th of whiskey, and then going home to your facility fit in? Where does it fit in? Is it a visitor? Where do the visitors park? People yelling and screaming things that were so vile. I want to yell it so that you get the feeling for what it was, but I think I'd be arrested if I yelled it. People in the other homes had to come out and subdue these, tell them you can't behave that way here. There are other places around Spring Street. There are too many treatment facilities. We don't need any more. Do something for the kids of the neighborhood, of the town who walk by. They've made the right choice. They've done the right thing, and they should get to walk to and from school in a nice place.
My name is Clem Bowl. I live on the corner of Spring and Coloma. I've lived there for 40 years. I've came to Placerville because I lived here all my life in El Dorado County. I'm a Korean vet, and my concern is this. My wife is 79 years old and she has a walking problem. I'm 81 years old, and I don't know what my ability is going to be soon. And so if there's a chance that this detours our area so our property value will go down, that means that I couldn't sell my house maybe to where it could be if this facility or any other facility is close by, because we might have to go to a care facility because I have no children. And so that's my concern. What's said tonight makes a lot of sense, but doggone it, it's just too close to my house. And I appreciate all the input, but my really concern is if it deters my value of my house, then it would really make a real difference to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. Hi, my name's Pam Johnson. I am the owner of 2971 Coloma Street, and I have direct vision of the house, of the facility right there. No one is saying that, or that a drug facility program is not valuable. Everyone sees the value of that. It would be foolish to think that we don't see the value of drug rehabilitation centers. But Placerville is already doing enough, supplying this to the best of our ability. We don't need to go beyond 100%. There are already treatment facilities right in our area. Now, maybe in greater Placerville there's not enough, I don't know, but right in our area. And we have seen things going on at that facility, not at Ridgeview Manor. We sit on our porch and watch it. There was a man out there a few months ago, and just ranting in their parking lot. He lives there because we would see them. He's probably not there anymore, but he was there. We see this man, and he constantly would go out there ranting, yelling at someone, using extremely negative and racial epithets, having to do with a Filipino N-word, calling someone that, just to be blunt. I have many Filipino friends, and who I was very offended. We do see the high school kids going by there all that's their pathway to school. There's the church. I live right beside the church. There's a preschool program there. There's Bible study school. There are a lot of people that, it's not that we object to any kind of treatment program. It's a wonderful thing. It's the location that bothers us and concerns us. It's a huge area. Oh my goodness, they could have thought that through. If they're so fond of it, do they have one right next to them? Are they operating in one? Do they live in one? Is it right next to their home? I don't know. That might be a question. Another concern I have is the impact of additional parking and cars and people coming and going. They're saying there are volunteers. I was given to understand that the volunteers are people who have been given community service to serve out their light sentences. I know someone who was one of those people who had to watch in a drug facility overnight for about 3 nights. Okay, are these the volunteers who are going to be there? They certainly will bring their cars, their comings and goings. Are people allowed to visit? If that's possible, then there's additional parking. The street is already impacted by lack of parking. That's an issue that is simply a space issue. It's basically a one-way street with one side of parking. If you ever go down Coloma, you have to pull over and wait for other people to go by you. That's simply a logistic question. I just ask you to consider the real impact. We're not saying a drug facility, a rehab facility is bad. Nobody would say that. That's ridiculous. It's purely the impact on this very, very small, little teeny neighborhood and street. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else coming forward?
Hi. My name is Lexi, and I live up on Cottage Street, and I drive down Coloma every day to and from work. And I myself am not opposed to a rehab program. They are needed, but not in a residential area. And I was just wondering how the Pages would like it if it was in their neighborhood. Mr. Page said that there was no other available property that would work. Well, they just coincidentally happened to have owned that property and couldn't do anything with it. Now it's a drug hab program. Otherwise, they probably would have bought something out of town, but this way they get their property utilized. And with that fact, he said there was nothing available. How about the Cold Springs Market? That's out of town. It's out of sight of the town. It's on a main road, larger facility. It's for sale. Why don't they purchase that and turn that into a rehab program? It's right by a storage facility. It wouldn't be bothering anybody. And why 10 beds? Nobody's disputing the program. They've already got their program. They've got the beds that they, are legally allowed to have, but they, for some reason, need to have more beds. This meeting's not going to take their program away or out of that facility where it's located right now. He said that the cost is $20,000 to run that a month, but he doesn't say what they get paid per head for everybody that's there, and I'm sure that it far exceeds the $20,000. I think the issue that they're really that they're making is what they want out of it. They're not getting what they want out of it. That's why they need more beds. Originally, he said in his opening statement at the last meeting that this would be beneficial to our county. Well, that would be fine if it was restricted to residents of this county, but it's not. I don't see the need to be bringing in alcoholics or drug addicts from Placer County, Sacramento County, any of the other counties. If it was restricted to our county, maybe possibly more beds, but that's not the case. Right now, every bed they have full could be out-of-county residents for all we know. So it's really not helping our county. It's definitely not helping our neighborhood. And the crime issues, they come and go. That happens in every neighborhood. It happens with the residents that come and go. The crime comes and goes. His business, on the other hand, will be there forever. You give him 10 beds now, he's going to want 15 2 years down the road. I just ask that you don't add to the degradation of our historic district by adding more beds to pad the wallet of the Pages. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Dee Little, and I live on Clomas Street. And my understanding is the reason they're increasing the beds is because they get a great increasement of money. Am I wrong?
Ma'am, you address the council, please.
Okay.
Don't
All
address
right.
the audience. The audience won't respond to you.
All right. Well, no, I was asking him. My understanding was he was going to get a lot more money out of bringing in more people because it's a different type of people. Now, this is an 1,800 square foot building. From the last time he talked, they have a kitchen and they have a TV room. That's all. And that means they're going to have to put quite a few men in the same bedroom. Well, what are these men going to do all day but sit outside and smoke? And that's it. They're not allowed to leave the property. So what are they going to do with these men? They don't have people coming in that are professional. If these men get out of hand, who do they call? Our police department, just like we were having trouble with the last group that came in, the foster children. Again, it's going to impact our area. We've had nothing but trouble there, nothing but trouble. And we need to stop it. And he keeps saying we won't have trouble. We have had a lot of trouble here. I have lived there for 14 years. We have drug problems, lots of drug problems there. And we need to clean it up. We really do. And please, don't add any more.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Maureen DeLapp, and I'm a homeowner in the Historic District. And the last two people before me brought up some of the points that I was going to, so I'll be very short now. But Ellen said that sex offenders, et cetera, would not be allowed. But at the Planning Commission meeting, we learned that Tim said that he'd be getting contracts with the state, contracts out of county, and with those contracts, he could not specify certain people. He would just get contracts, whether they be with the certain jails, certain counties. We would just get these people with those counties, and we couldn't distinguish who we would get. So I just wanted to point that out. And then also, one of the people on the Planning Commission, Mike Friend, said, what would happen in the middle of the night if somebody wanted to leave? What would happen? And if he broke out, we would just, if they got kicked out of the program, we would just let them go. So they would be walking on our streets. So if they got out of jail, they're from Contra Costa County, got shipped here on one of those contracts, and got kicked out of the program, from jail, nothing, with the clothes on their back, they're on the streets. They're Chief Heller's problem now, or Cannon, or whoever's problem now. They're our problem. So I just wanted to point that out. Somebody else brought up the reports of July 1st through July 31st, and the 40%, 48% calls. 48% were drug and alcohol, and we need this here. But we had specific calls to our neighborhood and what were in specifically down to the street, what calls and what were to the actual transitional housing and the program housing, what was, the calls are. And we have issues specific to our neighborhood, and we can't add another 10-bed facility for all these extra, what we know are going to be extra calls to our neighborhood. I agree with everyone else. We need a facility. Again, at the Planning Commission, we said, where else can we do this? And again, somebody on the Planning Commission said, why not move it? The end of the meeting, we said, why not move it to a commercial area? Commercial area is perfect. There's got to be a commercial area where people are not there during the day, and you could put a facility. So it's not in a residential area. It's not out in the road, on a dirt road where two neighbors are. In a commercial area, they're already going to be sitting on the blacktop, sitting in the yard, smoking. They're not affecting, it's just a commercial area. So anyhow, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. At this point, I'm going to close the public hearing. We will, if we have questions for the pages, we will ask them from this, one of the council members. Anyway, do you have any questions at this point? No. Or staff? Carol? Oh, wait a second. Patty, you got-
I do. I have some questions. I'm curious. This is a historic neighborhood. It's
I'm
been.
sorry, is this pages question? Or
No, are
is
you
this
just want
staff?
specific?
No, I just want to know who the question is up. Who's it directed to?
Oh, okay. I guess to Cleve.
All right.
Or whoever's going to tell me about this neighborhood, the designation, the historic designation. How did these folks get this permit in the first place if this is a historic residential neighborhood?
Pierre, go ahead. Excuse me. We don't need to applaud. We're trying to listen and find out, do some fact finding. So please don't applaud or boo or jeer, especially Pierre. Go ahead.
This property and the surrounding property is currently within a residential historic district, meaning that any changes to the exterior of the building typically would require site plan review, subject to the review of the Planning Commission and our Historical Advisory Committee. So because it's in the historic district, doesn't affect the conditional use permit applying for a use. It's looking at the nature or the change of buildings that have historic character. This building is not an historic building.
No, I know. I've watched that building since it was the answering service. So I'm real familiar with that building. But my point being is, and maybe I've got the wrong concept of residential, but to me, in my mind, I'm picturing those beautiful old homes that are there as residences. And this is certainly doesn't fit that criteria. And so that's why I'm wondering, how did this all come about? From a answering service, there was the taxis used to be there, I remember, and I don't know what was there. I can't remember. And I think for a while it sat vacant, I'm not sure. And then why was this granted, this 6-bed facility? I mean, and I know we don't have control over that portion, but to me it's just that designation alone that I'm wondering how this all transpired.
Okay, I do have some notes regarding the history of the building. According to the El Dorado County Assessor's records, a one-story, 960 square foot commercial office building containing 2 offices with a 960 square foot carport underneath the office space was constructed at this site in 1964. There's no permit record on file for this construction. During the late 1960s to mid 1970s, the carport was enclosed to create additional office and storage space. In 2010, the property owners, being the Pages, requested and received a conditional use permit to convert the non-conforming commercial building into a residential use. In 2012, a building permit was issued to complete the conversion into a 5-bedroom, 3-bath, single-family home, and this permit was finalized in April of 2013. So now we're pretty current to what it is. So the building right now is a legal single-family residential unit.
Okay. So in a single-family unit, then, is permitted a treatment facility?
They are allowed to have a community with what be more generally termed a community care facility, is defined under by the state, and the state usurps local authority to require any discretion over that type of use, and so, you know, the city is not in the position to say no. The state essentially is saying that a community care facility up to 6 persons is considered a single-family use. So in the eyes of the law, it's a single-family use up to 6 persons as a community care facility. It's the trigger now why this is a conditional use permit for this body, of course, is because once you're over 6, then we can require a conditional use permit.
Okay, I got that part of it, but I'm just.
So
I'm
as far
stymied-
as, so
I'm
going
stymied-
back, yeah, so if I may, going back to your original question then, unless they were changing the exterior of the building or something would trigger a site plan review, so we're looking at then the historic character of the building in context with where it's located, and that wasn't triggered, so we're just looking at a conditional use permit to add the 4 additional beds and what they're allowed to have currently under the law.
Okay, well, the exterior of that is the least historical site that I think I've observed in quite some time. But anyway, that's beside the point. What I wanted to ask too is, Chief Heller, you gave us a report on arrests that have been made in the surrounding area. And of those, I was wondering how many of those, or calls, maybe they weren't all arrests, calls were from facilities that you're aware that they are this type of facility. I know it's not rehab, but I know we have quite a few, and I'm wondering how many of those calls were from those places.
At this point, I don't think I could adequately answer how many are from care facilities because, as Mr. Rivas has said, the facilities that are operating with 6 beds or less are not inventoried by city staff. There's no mechanism that exists currently to ascertain how many are operating, where they're located, and how they're operating. So one of the things we attempted to do based on the citizen input before the commission was to go back and manually knock on doors in that neighborhood to ascertain if the information being provided to the commission was in fact factual, and it appeared it was, as far as the ones we were able to substantiate. So as far as calls per facilities, that's something we can try to take on. As I say, where you have, the first step is to identify all those facilities, which would take an inventory of the city, and it would, quite frankly, it would be a self-reporting at this point. And so we would do that and then go back and look. In the information provided to the commission, this particular facility, it's worthy to know, had, I believe, 0 calls for service in 2012 or 2013 and 2 calls for service this year. Mm-hmm. It's the general area that the residents speak to that had a significant amount of calls for service, primarily disturbances at the Ridgeview Manor location.
Okay. Okay, well, I halfway kind of live in that area, so I'm pretty much aware of all the things. I go by the...
But you're well beyond 300 feet.
I am well beyond 300 feet. I'm way up on the top of the hill on Apartment Hill. But I go by the puff unit, and I mean, I know things that go on up Spring Street, down Spring Street, and I know that that whole district is pretty much impacted with facilities. Another thing I was wondering, how, well, I guess this would come under the kind of the same question. How are I got the zoning already answered, but now, these folks have 6 beds, so they have supposedly 5 bedrooms or whatever. If they were to increase it to 10 beds, do they have the same fee charged to them as a bed and breakfast, or me as an apartment owner, for this number of people? I'm thinking water, sewer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How is that?
That's a good question. Dave, you might be able to answer that. I know that, you know, if it's 6 and under, it's considered like a single-family residential. But if they go above that, I don't know if we have that circumstance to determine
Even
how
if
would we
the
do it.
rooms are rented out? I mean, even if they're,
I believe so, that we're to treat, because we don't know what they are. So we treat them as a single-family residential.
If it's considered single-family residential, we would charge them just like a single-family residential
I can't
home.
hear you, Dave.
If it's configured like a single-family residential home, we would bill them a single-family rate. If they have separate suites or apartments, then we would charge them the multifamily rate.
Just on that same topic, has to do with a business license. So as a community care facility, do they have to have a business license?
For under 6,
For
I
the
don't
city?
believe so. Is that right? For under 6, we can't require that. When they go over the 6, like in this circumstance, I believe we could at that point.
So that would be like a trigger to make it more of an apartment or a rental?
Or, yes, there would be different, we would look at it differently if they went over the 6.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that I understand this, and I think it's been a little bit of going back. So it's in a residential area, therefore it is treated as a single-family residence until they go over 6 beds. And that's what they're asking for, and that's why they want the conditional use permit. But unless they go over that, as long as they keep it at 6, no business permit, we don't really have a say on anything.
That's correct.
Okay.
So, and then I'll wrap this up. In the report from Chief Heller, it says, going forward, I believe the Development Services Department staff are likely in the best position to review the city code for any necessary updates in this realm as it relates to the use of property as a care facility within the city. I really think that, I hope that there's some way that we can really delve into this a lot more deeply and really get some statistics and find a way so that we know, especially you know, where these places are and what's going on. And I'm just wondering if they shouldn't be. I have to say I disagree with that they're under the same code as having a 5-bedroom house. I just think that's wrong. So anyway, that's all I have to say right now.
Well, and I was kind of going with the same idea about, well, I started with business licenses, but how many, what point does it become a business? And then how does that trigger the city to be able to manage? We heard from several people that we don't even know how many care facilities we have because they fall under this gray area of 6 units or less. So how can you actively manage your community if you don't know what you have? You don't know where they are, and yet we're being asked to put in 4 more units based on a need, a perceived need, when we don't even know what we already have. So I'm having a hard time kind of wrapping my hands around 6 units or less is a non-licensed, non-regulated facility, but if you jump 4 more beds, all of a sudden there's state regulations and now city regulations. And
Can I
sounds like
simplify
John.
that? Maybe this
Sure.
will make it more confusing, but let me try to simplify it.
Don't make it more.
Basically, what the state is saying with these types of facilities, and they're not just drug and alcohol rehabilitation facilities, but other community care or residential care facilities, if you have 6 or fewer residents or beds, you are considered a single-family residence. And the local jurisdiction cannot treat that property any different than it does with any other single-family residence. You are a single-family residence. If you go over 6, they're not saying you're not a residence, but what they are saying is that at that point, you can require zoning conditions, exactly like a conditional use permit for that. Up to that point, you cannot. In fact, you could have it wouldn't even have to be a care facility. There are situations stemming out of a case in Santa Barbara where a bunch of unrelated people were living in on a property together.
College
And-
students. College students.
Yeah, it was. Anyways, the court said, that's a residential use. You cannot do anything about that. So there are situations where state law looks at these facilities, or even residences of 6 or more people, and said, it's a residence, and you cannot regulate those. When it is a facility, because there's specific state laws, and you have 6 or more, the state does say at that point you can apply certain zoning regulations when require a conditional use permit, put conditions on that use permit, things like that. But if they're under 6, we consider them a residence, and you can't do anything different to them than you would do to any other single-family residence. You can't apply fees differently. You can't apply taxes differently. You can't require a business license, for example, because they are a residence.
That's not right.
That's the law.
That's the law.
I don't care. It's not right.
I had a couple of questions of the pages. Contracts. Do your contracts change based upon the number of individuals in a facility? Okay. So, sorry. So your contract with the state and licensing, you can go through that whether you have 6 or whether you have 10 or whether you have 3.
That's correct.
Okay. And then the other thing is security. If somebody leaves, what other security features do you offer or have? What are you required to put in or have? Was there any requirements, I guess, by our building department for additional fire alarms or smoke alarms or?
Yes, we've applied for and received our 10-bed fire certificate from the fire department.
So that required an additional, an alarm system?
No alarm.
Okay.
We have everything that the fire department requires. We were
Right.
up to code on that.
Okay. All right, that's the only questions that I have, so thank you very much for your time. Thanks to the audience for all of the input. Appreciate your time and your patience. It does take time to go through these. So at this point, I'll accept the motion or directions from the board.
Well, I'll go ahead and try to muddle my way through this. I do believe that this particular neighborhood has what was termed an overconcentration or saturation of non-single-family residential uses. I do also believe that it is changing the nature of that particular neighborhood. I personally live in a neighborhood that has a majority of rentals. They are not care facilities. There's only 4 people in our street that own the homes that they live in. And it is basically, for all intents and purposes, just a sleepy little neighborhood of Placerville where kids can ride their bicycles around the cul-de-sac. The Coloma Street, Spring Street, historic district is precious to our community. With the residential character that is in that district is unique and should be treasured and cherished. And the presence of Ridgeview Manor, I believe, is probably the most difficult presence in that entire neighborhood. And adding, I know that the Pages have 6 units already, or 6 beds already, but adding even 4 more beds, in my mind, is just too much of a burden for our community, and especially for this neighborhood. So I am inclined to go ahead and recommend that or uphold the decision of the Planning Commission to deny the conditional use permit by the Pages.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and a second that was item 1, which was uphold the Planning Commission's decision to deny.
Can I say one thing? I have to agree with several people in the audience that came forward and said that I commend you folks for what you're doing, and I commend all the folks that got up before and spoke to us about their success in achieving sobriety. And I do think that such a facility is needed in our area, but I agree with the motion maker that not in this particular neighborhood.
Can I say one thing also on that?
Sure.
And it's not just about the homeowners, which we all want to protect, but also the residents. It's hearing the statements, and it's a 2-minute walk from the bar, and they have to see the flashing light, and that, there has to be somewhere better, more tranquil, where you can recover without the temptation.
Okay. At this point, then I'll go ahead and call for the question, please.
Vice Mayor Borelli.
Aye.
Mayor Hagan.
Aye.
Councilmember Patton.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkins.
Aye.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to call a 10-minute break for this meeting. Thank you. Yeah. All right, I'm going to call this meeting back to order. Mr. Ewell, find your seat. Oh. So authoritative.
It's that command presence. Yes.
But you notice I didn't. Oh, never mind. I won't say it. I didn't. All right, at this time we are on 11.1, consideration request by HUD Connection, Inc. for waiver of permit fees for conditional use permit. Establish a teen center at 669 B Street. Mr. Rivas?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Hub Connection is making an application for a conditional use permit to allow the establishment of a multi-purpose teen center at 669 B Street, which was formerly the Westside Church. The proposed teen center would provide after-school activities for high school-age students, including tutoring, life skills, training, education, career counseling, and similar activities. Hub submitted a letter dated June 16th of 2014 requesting the waiver of permit fees. A copy of that is attached. Therefore, this fee waiver is for your consideration, and as far as the budget impact, the current fee for processing the conditional use permit is $700 based on the fee schedule that's currently in effect. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have at this time.
Any questions?
My questions concern parking. I know that area gets pretty congested, and I know they allow parking on both sides of the street, but does this particular building have parking around in the back that we're not aware of, that we can't see from the road?
From staff's, I would say a more preliminary review, the parking is sufficient, but I just want to point out that this application isn't for consideration of the permit itself. It's whether or not we grant a nonprofit a fee waiver. This is a 501c3 in accordance with the Internal Revenue Tax Code. So they are not a fully nonprofit providing for these services outlined, and so because they're providing a service to the community, they feel that they should have their fees waived. So staff is coming before the council to get approval.
Okay, so we're
of the
not
fee
approving
waiver.
the location.
That's
Okay,
correct.
Yeah. I thought it entailed other things too. So.
Yeah, the use will be considered by the Planning Commission.
Okay.
And when the Planning Commission renders their decision, it'll be final unless it's appealed to the council.
Gotcha.
Unless it gets appealed back to us. Never mind. The only question I have is I didn't see a list of their board or the size of the organization history. Having served on a number of nonprofits,
Yeah, you have.
large and small, I just had some questions about that. And also our history is, I know in the past, 20-some years ago, I know we had a fee waiver when we put a shelter in for the first shelter for New Morning. I'm not sure the last shelter, I believe we paid most of the fees, but again, those were permit inspections, and part of that had to go to the state also. So our history and how often do we get this kind of request? This is the first time I've seen it in 9 years, 10 months.
I don't have clear statistics for you, but it is my understanding that the council or the city has waived these development application fees for nonprofits.
Okay. Well, I know who would answer that, but he's sitting in the audience, and I'm not sure I want him to stand up. He's got the purple shirt on. But anyway. Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
So Pierre, if this was a church use, would they have to pay development fees or fees if it was the same use? If it was the same use, would they have to pay anything just because it's a different use?
If the church required a conditional use permit to locate in some particular zone, then it would pay the fees unless it came and made an application to have the fees waived, and staff would bring it before the council.
Well, since this was already a church, that's my question. Since this was already a church, its use would stay the same. They wouldn't be faced with development fees, would they? Unless they were asking for something different.
I'm not sure I follow. I'm not following your question. I'm sorry.
Let's say Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, because what you're saying, it was a church, they could run teen programs, youth programs within their church. They wouldn't be required to even have a conditional use permit. It would be used as a church still. That
Right.
would be considered part of the church.
That's what I was wondering. If it was a church, it's because it's a 501c3, then that's a different entity. That's why
Than
they're.
a church, correct.
It's not a church.
Yeah.
Well, the hub is utilizing the former church facility. It is not a church.
So if another church came in and bought that facility, they could just come in and operate, assuming it was zoned properly.
And operate a church, yes.
And operate it as a
Which
church.
could include a teen center.
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, if there was if it's authorized under a conditional use permit, then it would operate under the terms and conditions under the conditional use permit, depending upon where it is. If it's in the middle of a neighborhood, it could restrict time, number of persons, the whole gamut.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So it couldn't have a school like
Got it.
some, churches do. Some churches are quite, let's just say, they have a lot of different associated
Activities.
uses, and
Right.
Yeah.
not all of them are the same.
So, but I have one other question, and that has to do with kind of where you went with this group, Hub. How long have they been in existence? Who is their board of directors? Do they have a business plan or whatever on how they're going to run the center? Do we have
Well,
any?
that'll come out
That's what
when it goes to the planning commission.
But
But without
we
knowing
know?
who the entity is,
Oh.
you're going to just grant him
A fee waiver, yeah.
a fee waiver? I mean,
Staff would recommend that you maybe ask a representative from Hub could
Okay.
speak to some of those issues regarding their organization.
Sure.
They are here
Thank you.
in the
Yeah.
audience.
All right.
Didn't know that because we don't know
So-
who's on the board.
So now we know who's in the audience. Would you please, whoever's presenting this, just tell us about your plans and what you're attempting to do?
Hello.
And who are you?
My name's Amy Buchanan, and I am the founder and the executive director of the Hub Connection Incorporated. It's a nonprofit founded to open and maintain, sustain a teen center in Placerville. Currently we have a 6-member board. I don't know if you want me to list my board members by name, but I can if you would like. We got our 501c3 status in 2012. So we're very new, but Westside Church has graciously allowed us to use the 669 B Street facility to bring awareness to the Hub Connection Incorporated and to also prepare the location for a teen center use. When I say teen center, I mean after-school programming that involves tutoring, homework assistance, programs, classes such as photography, art, drawing, those kind of things. And I could stand here probably longer than you want to hear. If you really want details, I do have a pamphlet with me. I can show you guys if I'm allowed to submit that to you. That is an overview of the after-school programming we'd like to see, as well as Friday night events. And we're looking into partnering during the day, some alternative education, performing arts, alternative education. So the location's not sitting there empty during the day. But the reality of it is our dream is to actually have a positive impact on teenagers and on this community. We would like to offer them an opportunity to learn how to, have self-confidence, how to be a part of something, how to serve the community, how to fill in gaps within the community, how to learn a basic trade and then take that trade and in turn turn it back into the community. For example, building wheelchair ramps so they would learn basic woodworking and then meet a viable need within the community. I'm a social worker at the hospital, so I see firsthand that we need wheelchair ramps. It holds up discharges. But I'm not here representing the hospital. Anyway, so just to kind of give you a brief overview, we are in the middle of getting a conditional use permit through the Planning Commission, going before them and hashing that out. And part of the process is getting this fee waived. What this fee for us means, the location is sat empty for almost 8 years now. So a lot of vandalism has occurred. There's broken windows, there's just damage that needs to be repaired and addressed before we can actually open our doors. And so the $700 is going to go towards continuing that process of getting the structure up and viable to be open.
Good. So simple terminology would be, it's a Boys and Girls Clubs for teens.
It's to high school.
Thanks.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. It's the mission is different in the sense that it's for high school.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm.
Yes.
Right. The other ones are for the little
Right.
younger kids, and they take care of a lot of them. So good. You're not in competition with them. You've seen another.
Right.
Another thing to fill, a need, and it looks like you've come up with a good solution.
So it's a nonprofit. How do you make your money? Through grant?
Through grants and also through donors, people that have come alongside us and believe in our mission and believe in what we're doing.
Well, I'll tell you, it's certainly something that Placerville needs badly.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions?
I actually,
Yes.
if you don't mind, Amy, I would like to know who's on the board.
Okay. I'm a little nervous, so it might take me a second to remember them, even though I just sat with them on Monday night, so forgive me for my hesitation. Okay, so Tanya Moran is my treasurer. She's an officer. Tim Thompson. Kelly Adams is my secretary. Actually, her last name is not Adams anymore. It's Anderson. She just got married. Dylan O'Reilly is my youth advisor, so he's an officer in a sense. And I'm forgetting somebody. Mark Adams. And is that it? Mark Adams, retired sheriff. That's it, right? Okay. Yes, that's
Great.
it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, actually, I do. Have you approached El Dorado High School District and working collaboratively with them on this, or are you just developing the program yourself?
Actually, I met with Jeremy Myers, who is the supervisor, El Dorado.
Sure.
Yeah. And I sat with him just to grab, to really, I sat with him and actually Matthew Barnes at the same time, the principal of El Dorado High School, and just laid out our mission, our passion, our dream, what we intend to do, and really wanted to start building that collaborative relationship with them. So they gave me a lot of wisdom and, where to go and, that kind of thing. What is a need and what isn't. So we've been able to really articulate our programming for after school around that. So I see a bright future in collaboration, especially with El Dorado High School because of the location. But we intend to, we want to embrace Union Mine and even the Independence Continuation School in the area and, do some collaboration. Eventually when we're bigger, our 3-5-year plan, I don't know how much you want to hear about my business plan, but we want to eventually, have other locations other than just in Placerville, or be able to collaborate and embrace other youth teen centers that are, Oak Ridge already has a teen center. We want to be able to collaborate with them and help support them as well. So once we're up and running in this one and it's going well and we've succeeded, we want to continue to grow and be able to impact El Dorado County in this area.
Great. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have you been in discussion with anybody from Boys and Girls Club?
At the beginning of this, I sat down with Sean McCartney, thank you, with Boys and Girls Club, and I basically, just encouraged him to encourage me, and he did, and just asked him to, to vouch for the boys, to vouch for the hub, and he said that he would. So, because I don't want there to be any competitive or any, ill will, and the Boys and Girls Club does an amazing work in this community for young children, and we want to be a support to them, when their kids outgrow their program, that they come to ours. So,
well, that's my thoughts were. They have such support of the community that if you could, coordinate and that as the kids, go up the ladder, that they'd have another place to go. It'd be great. I'm sure you'd get the same support.
I hope so. Yeah, I'm looking forward to continued collaboration with him. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
So do I have a motion? I don't see anybody else in the audience who wants to speak.
Well,
Oh,
Yeah, I'll surprise you. You have Steve Kelpie speaking for you. You don't need me.
but I'm rising just because I grew up in that neighborhood. I know it well. And as you all know from your early formative years, much of your education wasn't just in the classroom, it what's happened afterwards. And I walked down B Street or Canal Street to go to work in a family business, going through grade school and high school in that area, and attended a program for the Boy Scouts and Explorer Post that met right across the street from this group. And for Patty, who asked about parking, what the wonderful thing is when you're up in Union Cemetery, right behind there, you can see all this space. It's just this hidden secret that you can't see from the highway or the local roads, is that there's just plenty of parking and plenty of open space back. Absolutely. So, you know, my grandmother, Maggie Callan, was around the corner. To tell you how old I am, when I was back there, Dr. Sullivan and Reckers were the Rants, and you had Sullivan and Bonzer were the only surgeons in town. They lived in the same neighborhood. So if it's an aberration of the current plan, so what? It's absolutely consistent with the historic nature of that neighborhood. I've met with the people a number of times in the last year or so, and it's thrilling to see what they're seeking to do, because it's consistent with what the historical nature was of that neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, motion? Or
Anybody else in the audience? All right, seeing nobody approaching the dais podium, I'm going to turn it off. Yes.
I'd just like to make a comment that this is certainly such a big need in our community, and you know, government doesn't have to do everything. In fact, it often doesn't do it best. And I think certainly as we move forward, strong partnerships with public-private partnerships will be how we best address the needs in our community. So thank you for your time and passion and dedication to fulfilling this great need with the youth in our community. And I just really appreciate that and look forward to seeing what is developed. And with that, I'd like to move their request to waive the permit fees for a special conditional use permit to establish a teen center at 669 B Street.
Second.
All right, so the second goes to Tricia. All right, I'll call for the question. Everybody, we have to get involved.
Vice Mayor
Couple of
Borelli.
dollars.
Aye.
Mayor Hagan.
Here, aye.
Councilmember
here.
Patton.
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkins.
Aye.
Okay, 11.2, meeting time ending continued from
You have to hurry up,
Last-
Mr. Mayor.
July 8th because it was over, and this thing is just about, we can't hear it. So, 11.2, Mr. Morris, or Mrs. Zito?
This was just in response to Councilmember Patton's question. At one of the June meetings, and then on July 8th, we ran out of time to discuss the ending
Almost did
time.
tonight.
I know. If we will drag this out another 4 minutes, you'll have to take a vote to hear whether or not you want to talk about it. But I think it was just in response to Councilmember Patton asking if we had a policy, and it is in the box that, you know, at 9 o'clock you will take an inventory and see which items need to be heard that evening, but not to go past 10 o'clock under any circumstances unless a majority of the council votes to do so. So it would be up to you if you would like us to come back with other possible policies, or if you are happy with this and just needed a reminder that we had one. We could always put this little box at the end of the agendas in the future.
I'll make a statement. I think it's good that we have the policy. I think it's also, there are going to be some times when meetings do need to go on. But I think if you have the policy, you can adjust your calendar accordingly so that you move on. So anyway, I'm in favor of keeping this, but and I don't think it needs to be modified. I like the 3 hours after the start, because there are occasionally we get into situations where we cannot start the meeting right on time.
So just a point of clarification, after start time does not include closed session. Just want to
That's the
make
way
sure.
this reads.
It's the actual meeting that, yeah.
We could state for clarity, I'm not the attorney, but we could ask the guy down on that end what he thinks.
It'll cost you.
we have to give him another raise? So John, what do you?
Is that clear? In other words, the start of a meeting is start of the meeting before?
Well, generally speaking, I think the intent is the start of the open session. If you want to make it clear, it certainly would not hurt to add start of open session.
Yeah, I think that would.
I kind of left it vague in terms of meeting because there are times when you have like interview panels or other kinds of things or workshops, or they're not exactly specific council meetings that always start at 6 o'clock.
Right.
So maybe taking inventory of the 3 hours into whatever kind of meeting you're having, to see if you want to continue it on.
I mean, I think
We could
that's
put
the
council
intent.
meeting.
So, yeah, and I think I don't think we require any action. I think it's just review and file, and I think clarification, I don't think we need to clarify, we just need to be willing to bring it up. All right.
So it's been brought up.
It's been brought up. All right, on to item 12. Transit Authority, Councilmember Wilkins.
We had a transit meeting on Thursday, but I don't think we had anything that was special for Placerville. Right, Patty?
Right.
No, not.
Taxi voucher and.
Well, then that's all to come, but, yeah, not anything that would affect us, other than possibly the trolley thing that we didn't talk about that at transit, we did that at transportation.
We're hoping.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry.
transportation's next.
All right, so transportation, Ms. Thomas.
Oh, yes, all right.
Yes?
An exciting study that I may have reported on before, but that this fall season, we have secured a grant, or El Dorado County Transportation Commission, to embark on a agritourism mobility study for 2014-2015. And we'll be working with Apple Hill to look at how we can best mitigate the impact of over 1 million people who travel on Highway 50 during the fall season. Now, we want to recognize that they do contribute $30 million annually to the county, and certainly to the, some of that flows to the city, but they also create a severe operational, issues. So we will be looking, traffic issues, and we will be looking at how we can best work with Caltrans and transportation patterns to lessen the impact on the city of Placerville, especially, and keep folks moving around. And Supervisor Veerkamp has been played a pivotal role in helping us obtain this, I think, $220,000 planning study grant, that's exciting.
What about the possibilities of, from that study, getting more money for additional road repair?
Well, certainly, once we know, the true impacts and our options, that will help us further secure grants in order to do that.
Right.
Absolutely. The other thing at transportation was the fact that the active transportation plan is an annual funding opportunity, and I think especially perhaps Steve, for you and your Park and Recs Commission, and certainly our Community Development Department, that this plan encourages the increased uses of different types of transportation, including biking and walking, and increased safety and mobility options, and building connectivity in town. So this is replacing the Safe Routes to Schools grant, and it's combining funding opportunities as we look at building sidewalks and bike lanes and perhaps signage to get people on and off the bike paths and around town. And so the active transportation plan might be a good source of funding in the future. So those are them.
Okay.
And then Patty did a fabulous report.
Thank
Actually,
you.
she did. She did a very good report along with the Laurel Brentbaum from the
Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce, the trip to Minneapolis.
I had a wonderful trip to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and during that trip we also visited the little town of Stillwater, and all the things that Wendy just mentioned we experienced. And I have to tell you, when I first heard Minneapolis, St. Paul, I wondered, what did...
Were the mosquitoes as big as they heard?
And I didn't see one mosquito, so everything was good.
Oh.
No, but I tell you, those folks have done the most wonderful job with every form of transit and transportation that you can imagine. And we brought home, I think, a lot of really good ideas that hopefully we can pass on to our group. Anyway, it was a great trip. 4 days, and I'll tell you, it was just packed with being able to observe and see things. So
did you want me?
Said Corp.
I'm disappointed you didn't wear your hat, Patty.
Well, I will.
It's a beer mug.
We all got beer mug, you know, Minneapolis, the beer can. We all, and one of the things that we were privy to do is we traveled on a little puddle jumper trolley, one of their modes of transportation, and we were all given beer hats that we had.
Puddle jumping trolley?
Yeah.
Is it a boat?
No, it's a trolley. But we did go on a boat. We went on a yacht that was just wonderful. In this little town of Stillwater, who has managed to get a $60 million bridge. I mean, it's just amazing what these folks have done. And I'm going to bring my, the town of Stillwater has done a revitalization plan, and I've got all their information, and I'm going to share it with our Economic Development Commission because I think it's well worth seeing. And anyway, yes, I went to SEDCOR, and we talked about a lot of things. I've given Cleve some information that was given to us, things they would like us to follow through with, and it was SEDCOR, I believe, is coming a long way in trying to help our community as well as the other folks that belong to them. Did you?
I just want to add, yeah, thank you, Patty. Randy Wagner's been great. We've been doing a lot of things. You may know he's working on the phase 2, if you will, of Paint What Matters and trying to help us do some things there, and really excited, and plus some other things that we're working with him on. He's been very responsive and he was at our meeting Monday night with the Peak Committee, the workshop, and was very good. He's been very good to work with.
Trying to, along the lines of small business loans, right, so, okay.
All right. So under SACOG, we had Connect Card, if you're not familiar with that, but El Dorado County Transit is part of that consortium where all of the local transit districts will share a card, if you will, or a chip implanted in your left thumb, which will allow you to go from one transit system to another without having to buy a ticket at each location. So if you ride El Dorado Transit to Sacramento, and then you get on the light rail, and then you get off the light rail and get on the Sac Regional Transit, then they're all tied together, and you can use the same debit card, if you will, and load it. They're also doing some changes to make those interchangeable with depending on the accounting of the employer matching type situation, so that they can input the data into the computer system and add it to your fare, add fare to your card. They're also, the biggest, what we spent the most time on is Metropolitan Transportation Plan for 2016, which is a 5-year plan. And it's going to be moving forward this next year and a half. Will be a number of public hearings and outreach meetings and so forth. There also, you may have heard the rail issues going through Sacramento. Valero is increasing the size of their oil plant in Benicia. Their environmental impact report failed to mention a few items as it passes through Lincoln, Roseville, Sacramento, West Sacramento, Davis, on to Benicia. And the increase is going to be approximately 100 rail cars per day increase. And so we ended up spending a little bit of time on that because we are the Transportation Committee. For your information, I will be doing a 4-way virtual handshake between Independence, Missouri, Oregon City, Oregon, Placerville, California, and Santa Fe, New Mexico. Independence, Missouri is the kickoff or start of 3 trails systems. The Oregon Trail, the California Trail, and the Santa Fe Trail. So they have an annual Santa Caligon Days Festival in Independence, and the Chamber of Congress has been in touch with me, and on the 29th at 6:30 p.m. we'll be doing this virtual handshake and talking a little bit about it. So I actually have a virtual handshake test run tomorrow morning at
got to get to bed.
Something like
I got
that,
to get
yeah.
some rest.
Well, it's at 9 o'clock, so it's not too bad.
Where do you go for this?
It's beauty
Well,
sleep.
this will be my computer in my office. I'll probably bring my wife's iPad in and do that. But so, interestingly enough, they wanted to get Kevin Johnson, and he wasn't available, so Carl Hagan is.
And they're all the better for it.
All the better.
That's right. And actually,
Wow.
my maternal grandmother is from Independence, Missouri, so we
Oh,
still
my
have.
gosh.
And my mother said that she once dated Harry Truman, but I don't believe that part of it. But anyway, so we will be doing some of that.
Well, we expect a full report on that
You
handshake.
will. And I'm trying to figure out where the best to do it. I'm not sure if I'll do it down here at Town Hall. It's at 6:30 p.m. on the 29th, which is a Friday evening, or if we do it at the Bell Tower,
Bell Tower.
whatever's
As long as they
works
can
up
get
good.
Yeah.
So we might want to work with our IT guy
Yeah,
in the meantime, so, and he's interested in seeing my email stuff, so he wanted us to. But they work with Google and a couple of other major players to put this thing together. And they have, this brings about 150,000 people to their community over a 3-day period.
So is it about the railroad?
No, it's about the trails.
Just the trail, so could
The
we,
trails
do we have an
were
area?
wagon trains,
Where,
sorta like
okay,
that.
all right. I was trying to think of a
me
historic
too.
part of, where the trail
Well, I
would
would
be.
ask Davy Dockweiser, but
There
he's
you
liable to tell
go.
me where to go.
No, he might
I will
not.
talk to him tomorrow.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks.
Are you, is that it?
That's
I
it.
have one thing to mention. I just want to commend Scott Heller and his department for National Night Out.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great success. I really enjoyed myself, got to go to a lot of different venues, and the people were just wonderful that we met, and thank you.
All right. Request for future agenda items?
I do have two. I know, it's unusual.
Good
I know,
luck.
I've saved them all up.
It's after 9 o'clock.
I know,
so
I'll
I'm
be,
not
I'll
sure.
be brief, I'll be brief. First one is a brief, I've received a lot of complaints about that house on Wiltsey Road, that first one as you come in, with the fence around it, the overgrown weeds as tall as the gutters. And with the council's permission, I'd like a report on where we are with that, where is the property owner? I know there's concern with the neighbors with fire danger. It's been broken into with some transient offenders, and so we'd just like a,
What's in Broadway?
Wiltsey, it's
One block, one house back, one lot.
right, Wiltsey, near Wiltsey and Martin, 3039 Wiltsey, yeah. So that's been vacant for a while. I would like to look at that with the council's permission.
So be it.
Okay. And the second one is a much more fun topic, and been speaking to a lot of people out in the community, and I know there's groups working on a dog park, and there's groups working in about an active bike park out in the community, and would like to see if the council thinks that's a good idea to officially ask our Park and Recs commission to be active in that process and looking at the best, to kind of coordinate from a city standpoint what the best uses are and how we can accomplish a dog park and perhaps a bike park, whatever their recommendation is. Even looking at, I know we've talked about Lumsden in the past, how to bring a vibrant use to it, perhaps a American Ninja training, park, or just, request that they continue looking at those options in town.
Park master plan program, or didn't we do a
I
master plan?
talked to Steve about, and Cleve about a dog park quite some time ago, and I think you told me you were looking into it then.
But there's
There's
things
movement.
happening. There's movement
Exactly.
at both that and the bike park. We've talked to people on both of those.
And it doesn't
we're
have to
still
be,
working on it.
it's not right away, but, and I've been speaking with a couple Park and Rec commissioners, and they thought it would be helpful to have council direction for them to actively look into and to coordinate those uses and bring it a report to council as to where we are on that.
On one of our existing parks?
Whatever their recommendation is for bike park,
Whatever.
dog park.
Combination.
If there's room.
Exactly, or combination, exactly. So we don't have community groups operating in silos outside the purview of the city of Placerville, so.
I think that's an excellent topic, and I remember talking about the dog park not necessarily the bike park, but that would be appropriate there at the end where Kentucky Fried Chicken is, down below by the old railroad bridge. And I understood that Jennifer from Doggles was going, or
She's working on it.
that, but have we seen any plan? Is that anywhere?
No, I've been in contact with her. She is, we provided some maps showing the site, just general maps, and then she took those and she was working with an architect who she thought was going to be able to draw something up for us, so.
Is that just fallen by the wayside? Because I really
No,
think
she's still, this has been
that's-
just recent again that I've had conversation with her. So she put a phone call in to me today, and I wasn't able to hook up with her, so I will talk to her tomorrow and see. But she is calling me again now to find out some information, so.
I really agree, though, to bring that back to the council, because I'd like to move forward on that.
Right. And a group is also looking at that same site for a bike park, and there's some thought that maybe there could be a combined use. So let's bring those, yeah.
Wendy, if you do,
It's a big site.
this house on Wilsey, I also was at a house on Stonecrest, or a neighborhood, at a National Night Out, and they've got a vacant house, and they're having the same problems. And they asked me what to do, and I said, in the past, what we've done is called the fire department, and once we got there, they came out and assessed it. And I think at that time, if they had to do a cleanup job, then they gave the orders, and then if that didn't happen, then somebody did it, and then it was put on the tax lien
rolls.
against their house.
Right.
And they told me that there's quite a few homes in that area where they're vacant. And
We need to be alert to that, because that certainly.
So is that still the case, John, that the fire department, is that who they would?
The lead agency.
You know, last I know, situations where we've had properties that are overgrown with weeds, vegetation, causing a fire hazard, we work closely with the fire district, and they would notice them and, give them a couple opportunities to clean it up, and then they'd go clean it up and lean the property. They have a
Okay, so I gave them the right information.
Yeah, they had a procedure set up for that.
Okay.
Sounds good. Okay. City manager, staff reports, anything new, added, exciting? Item 16.
I have one item, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Sure.
Staff just wants to report that yesterday, being August 11th, we released the notice of preparation of environmental impact report for the Clay Street Bridge replacement and Clay Street Bridge, or Clay Street realignment project. And basically, in accordance with CEQA, it'll be a 30-day review period. We're also going to hold a scoping meeting, and that'll be on Wednesday, August the 27th, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., and that'll be here in Town Hall. And we'll be inviting the public to come participate. We'll have the EIR consultants there to answer questions about the CEQA process and the preparation of the environmental impact report, and hopefully answer any other questions that the public may have in anticipation of having a draft EIR out on the streets for review.
What time?
5 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Thank you. All right. So, next meeting will be August 26th at 5 p.m. Closed session, 6 p.m. regular session. Limited to 3 hours.
Give or take.